Means for you as we look ahead to the general election.
Continuing coverage live from tonight at midnight on GB News.
Good morning to you. It's 6 o'clock on Thursday, the 2nd of May. Today, the Scottish Government breathes a sigh of relief as they survive a vote of no confidence, winning it 70 to 58.
Former US President Donald Trump's hush money trial continues today after being held in contempt of court, fined over £7,000 and threatened with jail if he continues to break gag orders.
Princess Charlotte, third in line to the throne, celebrates her 9th birthday today.
You might have been woken up to thunderstorms as weather warnings are extended by the Met Office across a large part of southern England. That came after the hottest day of the year so far.
After some big thunderstorms last night, still a few showers across the south today, but for many, there'll be some pleasant warm spring sunshine, especially so in western Scotland. Could last into tomorrow as well. Join me later for a full forecast.
And in the sport this morning, Jadon Sancho may have been, well, a little bit rubbish at Manchester United. Sorry, Jadon, but he is flying back again at Dortmund as they beat Paris Saint-Germain in the first leg of the Champions League semi-final. Rocket Ronnie is knocked out of the World Snooker Championships, and the Olympic flame is on board a ship somewhere in the Mediterranean, bound for France.
Good morning to you. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
The weather is terrible today if you're in the south. Just be warned, you may have seen there was plenty of warnings last night, and I thought, well, it was quite. At our place, it was quite nice this morning, lovely, in fact. Heading down the M1, the thunder and lightning was unbelievable. It was actually a little bit scary.
It is quite scary, actually. I got out of the taxi this morning, walked across, and there were lightning strikes and thunder. It felt like the end of the world. Yeah. And at that time, it's pitch black and there's no one else around.
Yeah, it's not
good,
is it?
So I was a bit worried about my safety, and I was also a bit worried that my umbrella might be a conductor for something.
Yeah. Safest place you can be is in a car, you know.
Oh, really?
They form what they call a Faraday cage.
Oh, well, there you go.
So the lightning might hit you, but it'll go all around the car.
Oh, that's OK, then. So I was all right in the taxi. It was just when I got outside of my brolly, I didn't feel too safe.
Then you were a walking target.
Yes.
Yeah,
well,
at that point.
I'm glad we're both here, safe and sound. I was a bit worried about you on the M1. First person I thought of, actually.
Oh, that's very nice, isn't it?
I was like, I hope Stephen's OK on the M1.
Yeah, so if you are going out and about today, or this morning at least, just be careful. I don't know at what point it peters out, but we shall get a full weather forecast a little bit later on for you with all the details. Yep. And we're talking to Nathan Rowe about it actually in a few minutes as well.
So he'll be able to tell us a bit more about it. I think it's lasting until tomorrow morning.
Oh, is it?
That's my understanding. Yep, today's a write-off. You might be better to stay at home.
Yeah.
Stay warm and cosy.
If you can. That would be nice.
Or not, if you're heading out to vote today, because you can head to the polls in a series of local elections in the UK. In Scotland, its government has survived a confidence vote at the Scottish Parliament. Scottish Labour's Anna Sarwar tabled the motion after the collapse of the power-sharing deal between the SNP and the Scottish Greens.
Let's talk to Benedict Spence, the political commentator who joins us now. Good to see you this morning, Benedict. I mean, I have to say, it's a little bit surprising. Someone clearly came to the aid of the SNP yesterday. Who decided to do that?
Well, it was the Green Party predominantly. The people who have, if you like, collapsed the power sharing agreement. They're the ones. Obviously, the Beach House Agreement was signed in the SNP, but were very upset about the removal of climate change targets and other issues that they were in agreement on with the SNP. They are the ones that have decided actually to come to the aid of the incumbent Scottish government. They said that the motion of no confidence was chaos for chaos' sake, and so they were the ones that supported the SNP and gave them, a relatively healthy majority in the end. And I suppose that all of that comes from the fact that if you are the Green Party, you're looking at the prospect, if there were, say, an early election for Butte House, of potentially losing what influence you have. The Greens have been able to strike a deal. They've been able to get things across the table that they wanted as part of that power sharing agreement. Were there to be, a fresh attempt at constructing a new Scottish government, they might not actually find themselves with a seat at the table. So I suspect that's probably what motivated that.
What do you think? Why do you think the Labour Party pushed ahead with this motion, this no confidence vote, despite the fact that Humza Yousaf had already announced that he was going to stand down as SNP leader? What do you think they hoped to gain from that? Because it did look as though the Greens were always going to side with the SNP. They described it as this vote was chaos for the sake of chaos.
Yeah, I think if you are the Labour Party, across the United Kingdom where they're standing at the moment, they are in the ascendancy. There is a sort of I wouldn't say triumphalism, but there is a quiet confidence in Labour that there hasn't been for a very long time. I think mentally, Scotland is very important for the Labour Party. It is traditional heartlands, and it collapsed in the aftermath of Gordon Brown's government, that support in Scotland. I think getting Scotland back, therefore, in sort of by hook, by crook, in all shapes and forms, is very important. I also think that at Holyrood, rather than in terms of the more national picture at Westminster, because of the relative failures of the SNP when it comes to all manner of things, be it ferry procurement or getting them from A to B, or be it things like literacy rates compared to England, or be it things like drug addiction, there is a sense that the wheels are beginning to fall off for the SNP, that their period in government has not been particularly successful. So I think if you are the Labour Party, you want to be doing what they're doing to the Tories as well, which is putting that pressure on, putting the irons to the putting their feet to the fire, and saying, well, come on, if you're that confident, let's go, let's have a go at this. So that's the behaviour of, I think, of a much more confident opposition party. I wouldn't say absolutely certain of being able to win majorities north of the border, or the wipeout that is being talked about in Westminster, but nonetheless they feel that they're in that on that direction, and that is the behaviour of a confident party, is to call for the end of the incumbent government.
On other matters, what are we to make? How concerned should we be, Benedict, about these university protests over the Gaza situation? Understandable to some degree, but these students now taking over university campuses, it started off in the States, it seems to have spread to a number of universities here in the UK. How problematic is that, if at all?
I mean, in the United States, they have a bit of a history of quite militant student activism, and I think you've already seen in certain campuses the reaction of local police forces, which has been, I wouldn't actually even say by US history standards particularly heavy-handed, but as much as anything else, we've also seen in the United States increasingly at a lot of these private universities, the backlash has begun, not so much in the form of the authorities, but in terms of donors and alumni over the issue of Gaza. It's obviously, we all know that it's incredibly divisive. It can't be allowed to proliferate, though. It can't be allowed to continue. It cannot be the case, I'm afraid, that an international issue is able to bring the learning of just about anybody who's at the university, who is able to bring research at a world-leading university to a halt. I think that that's very different from a democratic protest through the street of London or Manchester, wherever it would be. Actively disrupting the activities of, in some cases, private companies, but also universities, people learning, their access to learning. That's something that can't be tolerated. It needs to be nipped in the bud. As I say, in the United States, it's got a little bit more out of hand because they have a bit more of a history of that sort of thing. But as we've already seen, attempts are being made to curtail that. And I suspect if you don't want things to escalate, I would hope that it'll happen here. But I also don't think we're going to have activists. There isn't quite the same network of activism in the UK as there is in the US.
Benedict, just before we let you go, I did want to ask you about the situation in Ireland, because there is this tension brewing, isn't there, between Rishi Sunak and the Irish Prime Minister. It's over migrants heading into the Republic, reportedly because of Rishi Sunak's Rwanda policy working as a deterrent. There's now talk of Ireland sending police to the border, and there's obviously trouble with that, isn't there?
There is, especially seeing as the UK government was informed for so long by the Irish government that any form of a hard border in the island of Ireland would be disastrous. It would, cause end to the Good Friday Agreement, that it would cause there to be violence. And so now to hear that actually there can be one imposed because of migrants coming from the UK, who we were told by the rest of Europe you have to take. It's the morally upstanding thing to do. And for the Irish Republic to turn around and say, oh, no, actually, we don't want to do that. It does seem a little bit rich. I mean, ultimately, I don't think that this is because the Rwanda plan is working per se. I think it's because actually people like to try their luck. I think the Republic of Ireland, it has a lot of the things that the UK offers. It's an Anglophone country. The language is spoken by many people around the world. The issue with this is I think the Irish government simply wasn't prepared for the political backlash that has been faced. In the UK, there has been a backlash, but it's been relatively a lot less angry and a lot less vociferous than what you're currently seeing on the streets of Ireland. They have not had a history of mass migration to their country for economic reasons. It's a country that exports people rather than imports them. And so I think culturally it is something that a lot of Irish voters, a lot of ordinary Irish people were not prepared for. And I think that the government is really struggling to find a way of dealing with it, and it needs to find somebody to blame. And that ultimately, it's very easy for the Irish government to blame the British government for this. But as a result of the Rwanda scheme, I don't think so somehow.
OK. Benedict Spence, thank you very much. Good to see you this morning for that political roundup. Thank you very much indeed.
Now, former US President Donald Trump has been threatened with jail as he returns to court. Another hearing on the alleged breaches of his gag order is on the agenda. Earlier in the week, he was fined over £7,000 for multiple breaches of another gag order, with the judge suggesting he could be jailed if further breaches took place.
Well, US political analyst Eric Ham joins us now. Good to see you this morning, Eric. This hush money trial continues today. What can we expect going forward?
Well, I think many people will be watching to see if, in fact, this judge is not only going to impose stiffer fines, but will he actually incarcerate Donald Trump? We know just a few days ago that was actually on the table, suggesting that perhaps if Donald Trump continued to cross that line, he could actually move forward with this ultimate penalty of actually putting him in jail for violating the gag order.
I mean, it just adds fuel to the fire of the Trump base, though, all of this, doesn't it? Because he's seen increasingly as a victim of a political witch hunt with all of this.
Well, I think that level of rage is already baked in. We know that Donald Trump has been dealing with these legal entanglements now going back for months. And now that he's actually on trial, I don't know if we're going to see Donald Trump's base become even more hardened behind the fact that now we're seeing a judge actually implementing fines. And we know that Donald Trump was fined during his civil trial as well. I think what will certainly send many people in a tizzy is, in fact, if there's a way to actually jail Donald Trump. There are many who believe that it's nearly impossible to actually place a former president in jail because of the fact that there is a Secret Service duty to actually to protect him. So, of course, many people would be watching to see if, in fact, the judge is willing to go that far. And I think what we're seeing here is Donald Trump and this judge in a face-off to actually determine who actually wins, because I think what we're seeing take place is a game of chicken between both of these men right now.
I mean, you've alluded to it there, Eric, but How do you think Trump is dealing with all of this? How is his mood? Because we've seen reading of private messages, haven't we, in the past few days? There's accusations in there that he's allegedly cheated on his wife. I mean, how does he appear to be taking it all?
Well, I think we heard from Donald Trump where he said that he is bothered by the fact that he has to sit here all day. He actually made the statement that there was someone who said to him that this is the first time they've ever seen someone who had to sit in a trial all day. This is what happens when you are, in fact, a criminal defendant. You actually have to be in court every single day, and it's required for you to be there for the entire time. And I think what we're seeing here is Donald Trump is struggling with that. It keeps him off the campaign trail. And also, even though there are violations to this gag order, it is, in fact, keeping Donald Trump from, I think, saying a lot of things that he wants to say. We know that Michael Cohen has certainly been pushing his buttons. And I think what we're seeing is just the frustration that Donald Trump is feeling because he can't be on the campaign trail, because he can't push and fight back like he would want to.
OK, Eric, good to see you this morning. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank
you. Ian's been in touch already at gbnews.com/yoursay. Says, love him or loathe him, Donald Trump is being targeted by the judicial system. The court should be about right and wrong and not used to imprison political opponents. Of course, Democrats would say that isn't happening and he's simply there being tried for things he has allegedly done wrong. But it's... you can, because it is, the judicial system is politicised in a way. I mean, certainly in a way that you'd never see over here. It does raise those questions. Can't ignore it. But say it's not doing his campaign any harm, is it?
Well, no, and it hasn't so far. If anything, it positively impacts him in the polls, doesn't it? Whenever we see Trump in court. But I think this is the first time we've actually seen it negatively impact his mood. Yes. He does not look happy.
So the idea that he's got to sit there.
Yeah.
And put up with it. Well, as Eric said, that's what happens. Of course, I don't think it should apply to him.
No.
But there you go. Any views on that? gbviews.com. Do you know gbnews.com/yoursay? Oh, God, 3 weeks in, I'm still struggling.
We will get there. Well, it used to just roll off the tongue, didn't it? But we'll get used to it. Okay. Now, at 6:15, let's take a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom this morning. And voters go to the polls for key council and mayoral elections today. Police and crime commissioners will also be chosen. There is also a by-election in Blackpool.
Students have set up sit-ins at some universities in the UK to protest against Israel's war against Hamas in Gaza. Yesterday saw violent clashes between the police and protesters at universities in the United States.
The 14-year-old boy stabbed to death in north-east London on Tuesday has been named as Daniel Anjurin. Marcus Anjuini Monzo will appear in court charged with murder.
The UK's biggest indoor venue, Manchester Co-op Live Arena, well, it's never out the headlines, this one. Yeah. Forced to postpone its opening event again. A US rapper's concert was halted literally at the last minute because of technical issues, adding to the list of events that haven't gone ahead. US musician Olivia Rodrigo's latest gig has also been postponed.
And a group of more than 10,000 black cab drivers is suing Uber after accusing it of breaching taxi booking rules in London between May 2012 and March 2018. If successful, it could cost the cab giant more than £250 million. Now, we've been talking about the weather this morning, haven't we? I think lots of people are calling me very pathetic for saying that it was scary this morning.
Well, no. There are one or two people saying you need to get a grip. But I said it was scary, first and foremost, because it really... I mean, driving through it, it really was.
Bearing in mind, we're driving in at about 3 o'clock in the morning, so we are the only people on the road.
It really was scary.
Yeah, it was.
It's all right for you sat at home, wherever you were.
Yeah.
You were
or having a night... or sleeping in your beds, because you may have been woken up to thunderstorms. It's all because yellow weather warnings remain in place across large parts of southern England today. But this all comes after the hottest day of the year so far.
Yeah, the Met Office said it could bring difficult driving conditions, yes, and some flooding. Yes.
Well, joining us now is weather journalist Nathan Ray. Good to see you this morning, Nathan.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. What's going on out there?
It was quite scary. I was scared as well this morning when I left.
Oh, well, there you go. It's not just us.
No, and if you're waking up this morning, you are going to be waking to some bangs and clatters because, yes, we have thunderstorms across the south of the country. If you take sort of South Wales and the south of the Midlands all the way downwards, the southeast, the southwest, the West Country, Wales, Kent, Sussex, Essex, all of that area is under a yellow Met Office warning for thunderstorms this morning. The southeast up until 10 a.m. and the southwest up until 8 a.m. And there are some pretty lively eruptions going on. I was looking at the lightning trackers this morning. Around 540 lightning strikes an hour when I was heading in this morning. So it's going to be a very explosive morning up until about 10 o'clock as those thunderstorms roll in from Normandy in France on an area of low pressure.
And so they're going to last till about 10. How far up the country will it go? That
goes up until the South Midlands. So if you take the Midlands and go downwards, that is the risk area. Southeast England, southwest England. The thing with thunderstorms is they're very difficult to pinpoint where exactly they're going to happen. So the Met Office warning this morning is a risk area. That doesn't mean that everywhere within that area is going to get them. As I said, these are not homegrown thunderstorms. If you think during the summer months when we get very hot weather, we get an eruption of thunderstorms as hot air rises. These thunderstorms are being brought in from the continent where there is a big area of low pressure and a warm front which is coming into the country. If you've noticed over the last couple of days it's got very warm. That's what's bringing in the thunderstorms.
Well, it's a very different picture, isn't it, across the country?
Oh, yeah. Now, here you go. Sasha says, forecast may be bad where you are, but in Cheshire we've got wall-to-wall sunshine and no rain today.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
And to the north, if you are north of the area I've just mentioned, you're going to be wondering, what on earth are they talking about? Because they're going to get much drier, calmer, bright weather. As I mentioned,
it's always better in the north.
It is, and the northwest Scotland going through the next couple of days, they're going to get the sunshine as this area of unsettled weather moves across the rest of the country. But saying that, we were talking a couple of days ago when I was in about how it was freezing cold and it was going to get warmer. It is now going to get much warmer. And if you've noticed over the last couple of days, it's been feeling muggy warm. That is warmth coming in from the continent and bringing instability.
I wondered about that because it was muggy. But it's that muggy water, because often when it's muggy, you get thunderstorms afterwards.
There are two real types of triggers for thunderstorms. In the summer, we get thunderstorms because the sun is beating on the ground and that causes air to rise, and rising warm air is always going to cause instability. Or we can get what we're getting now, and this is a warm front coming in from the continent, a big area of low pressure over the Mediterranean. A warm front is really another word for an area of warm air coming into the country. And when you get warm air coming into a country which has had cold air over it, that warm air rises, and whenever you get rising warm air, you get eruptions, and that's what we're getting. So these are sort of like thunderstorms and instability coming in from the continent. Up until around 10 a.m. this morning, the worst of it should be over. As I said, in the south, if you're further north, you can ignore everything we're saying because you won't be getting any of it. But up until 10 a.m. and then going forward, there might be some more eruptions this evening because we're in an instability at the moment. But getting better. It is getting better.
And we could see up to 22 degrees this week.
Yes, we could. And that is, again, because of this low pressure to the south bringing in warm air. And towards the end of the week, we're going to get higher pressure. Now, when we're at this time of the year, higher pressure, whenever you hear forecasters talking about higher pressure in summer, that means clearer skies and sunshine. The warm weather we're getting at the moment, as you will have noticed, and as I mentioned, is a muggy, cloudy sort of warm weather. We're going into higher pressure, which could be sunnier. But as a point of interest, I wanted to ask you both, if you have enjoyed the warmest April since 2020.
No, it's very wet.
It has actually been the warmest April since 2020, since the lockdown, hot weather April. Can you believe that?
No. Why doesn't it feel like that? Is it because it's been quite windy? Is that the issue?
There's a couple of reasons, and the Met Office have explained this very well. The first half of April was actually unusually warm. We got 21.8, I think, during the first half of April, and that pushed the averages up. The second half of April, which is actually quite rare to have a second half of April cold, but the second half of April was cold, but the average was nevertheless quite warm. The second thing is it's been very dull. It's been one of the dullest Aprils for about 25 years. And the dull weather means cloud, and cloud keeps warmth over the country. So if you've got cloudy nights, the warmth doesn't radiate off into outer space. And so therefore the overall average temperatures for the month are actually coming in a bit higher than average, even though it feels like we've just come out of Arctic start to spring. So it's very, very weird. The other thing to point out is because we're getting used to warmer springs, which are quite unusual. The last warm springs we've had over the past few years have been unusual. When we get an average spring, average April like we've had now, it feels worse than it actually is. But no, 0.4 degrees C's above average, the warmest April for 4 years.
You would never believe it, would you?
You never, ever would.
Well, long may it continue. Oh, that's probably not a PC thing to say, is it?
I think you can
Warmer weather.
Well,
but, you know, I want a warm summer, that's for sure. Nathan Rao, thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Lovely Melanie Davis says it's a beautiful sunny morning here in Southport. May have breakfast outside today.
Can we come and join you, please? It's horrible here.
Wouldn't that be lovely?
And there was another one, just go below. Just share Stephen's laptop here. Linda Day says, Stephen, thunder and lightning, very, very frightening. Mamma mia.
Yes, well, there you go. I bet you're not the first person to think of that one.
Yeah, it's very good.
Let me just have a look. Oh, Jules says, I do love a decent thunderstorm. This morning in Andover, it was a bit lame, to be fair. I tell you what, I mean, I'm like you. If you get one in the middle of the night and you watch it, it's lovely. Driving through, it's another kettle of fish.
Or if you're on holiday, have you ever been on holiday and it's kind of like a tropical storm?
Oh, yeah.
Now, that is a good show.
That is very nice.
Very good. You get a nice drink on the side.
Mother Nature, you know, very powerful.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Swim in for you.
Yeah, exactly. You never know what's coming next.
No, you don't.
It's true.
When they get mad.
It's true. Let us know if you're enjoying the thunderstorm this morning. gbnews.com/yoursay. Right, we've had a look at the weather. Let's look in a bit more detail, shall we, on our Thursday morning.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Some places seeing some pleasant warm May sunshine today, but staying fairly cloudy in the south, and in eastern areas a chilly breeze off the North Sea. Had some big thunderstorms through the night across the south. Still a few heavy downpours here and there this morning. Parts of southern England, the Midlands and South Wales in particular. The rain will ease a little bit through the day, but staying fairly dull and damp across the southwest. Some brighter skies for East Anglia, Northern England, Northern Ireland and a good chunk of Scotland. Western Scotland in particular, 21, maybe 22 degrees, but much cooler on these eastern coasts with that breeze coming in from the sea, and cooler with the cloud and the showery rain across the southwestern quarter. That rain will continue well into this evening as well. And then later in the night, we need to look at further pulses of heavy rain, potentially further thunderstorms coming into parts of East Anglia. Further north, it generally stays dry. There'll be some clearer spells, but quite a bit of cloud. That'll keep the temperatures up 9 to 11 Celsius. On to tomorrow, and it's a similar story. We're going to start pretty grey over the Midlands and Wales with some outbreaks of rain, but heavier rain coming into parts of eastern England, so a different feel across northeast England in particular. Again, the potential for 1 or 2 thunderstorms. Brighter day in southwest England. Again, chilly on some of these North Sea coasts with temperatures really struggling under the cloud, but yet again, if you like warm sunshine, western Scotland will be the place to be.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, Sean Cooper's been in touch.
Oh, what Sean Cooper said.
And you see, but Sean, you make our point for us in a way. He says, I don't know what your weatherman is talking about. This was the coldest April I've known for years. Yeah, but the point is, it felt cold. We all think it was a cold April, but the reality was, on average, it wasn't.
But I think that's just because we had a few hot days at the start of the month,
A few hot days at the summer at the beginning bumped it up, but then we had the wet and we had a lot of wind, which makes it feel colder.
Yeah, it felt a bit miserable to me.
So there you go. So you're sort of right. It felt horrid and cold, but in fact wasn't.
It's the law of averages.
Thankfully, summer is just around the corner.
Yes.
So we're going to make it sizzle for you with an incredible £20,000 in cash up for grabs in our latest Great British giveaway.
Yes, it's our biggest cash prize to date, and it could all be yours. So here's how you could be a winner.
We've blown the budget by giving you the chance to win a totally terrific £20,000 in tax-free cash to make your summer spectacular. You could use that cash to splash out on a holiday, make the garden glam, buy a new car, or just save it for a rainy day. Whatever you'd spend £20,000 on, make sure you don't miss the chance to make it yours. For a chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, Text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck indeed. Now, do stay with us. Still to come, Chelsea hosts Tottenham this evening in the big London derby. We'll be talking to Paul Coit all about that next.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threats on.
Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me. My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country. That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people. To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel. And from tonight,
The people decide.
As the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections.
we'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
And we'll pick up at breakfast
with the very best guests and analysis.
And on the weekend, the results won't stop, and neither will we.
We'll explore what it all means for you as we look ahead to the general election.
Continuing coverage live from tonight at midnight on GB News.
Paul Coit's here with all your sports news. Good morning.
Good morning. I do have a weather question, though. Maybe we could put this to Nathan.
Were you scared of the thunder?
Well, it's funny you say that because, well, no, but I do remember when I was in primary school, and it wasn't quite as long ago as maybe you think it was, but I remember sitting in a class, and I remember it really well, and I remember the teacher saying, because there were a couple of kids that were crying, that were very scared during a thunderstorm, and she sat down and she said, now, we look at the lightning, and then you wait for the thunder, and then you count each second is how many miles away the...
I was doing that in the taxi this morning.
Did you do that? And did you count?
Yeah, it was 3 miles away.
So is that nonsense, do we think? Or is there anything in that whatsoever?
Speed of sound.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
all the speed of sound, isn't it?
So do you reckon that's what it is?
3 seconds per mile. So I'm being told in my ear. But
that's really technical.
Let's ask Nathan.
Yeah, Nathan will know.
When he's next in.
It's better than that old nonsense they used to say, it's the clouds bumping together. Do you remember people used to say that?
It's the angels making their beds.
Oh, is that?
That was the other one. Yeah, the angels making their beds.
No wonder I...
So, I was terrified.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's awful.
Right, let's talk Champions League semi-final, should we?
Dortmund against Paris Saint-Germain yesterday. So the last time the Champions League final was at Wembley in London was 2003, and it was Dortmund against Bayern Munich. And amazingly, that could well happen again because that was the last time they actually played each other. There's Dortmund there. Jadon Sancho. Now, Jadon Sancho, we know about Jadon. He, English player, very good. Came over to, that's Kylian Mbappe, came over to Manchester United, and it just didn't work for him. You remember it was a disaster. He'd had arguments with Erik ten Hag, and then he was sent back on loan to Dortmund, and it worked for him, and he was brilliant yesterday. So you've got Kylian Mbappe, arguably the world's finest player, and Jadon Sancho taught him a lesson too.
Why has he found his form now again?
Because it's confidence and it's personal. It's like, you've got a lovely boss, but if you had a boss that you didn't like, who was giving you all this, Stephen, you're not doing this, Stephen, well, OK, it does happen, but that's not the case. But Steve, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, and it would start getting to you, and this is the problem. And then there was stuff on social media, and then Erik ten Hag had come out and said, well, you know, he's not doing this, and he's not doing that, and he's not turning up for training, and then Jadon Sancho went back on social media to complain about that. So it's... How can you be expected to go out and perform? So now he's gone back to Dortmund, where he came up from where he was very young, and it feels right again. And now he's comfortable, he's playing with confidence, and it's working. So whether he's actually going to end up going to the Euros with England, I still think it's doubtful, because it's probably too late now. But he was very good.
Good on him.
How are you feeling about tonight, Paul?
I'm feeling a little nervous.
Are you?
And a little uncomfortable.
OK.
Chelsea, how are you feeling about tonight?
I also feel the same way.
Do you really?
Yes.
Is that because it's Gerard's birthday, or is that because it's both?
Well, we need to time it perfectly so we can be back from the restaurant in time for the kick-off.
So what time
Which is at what time?
The kick-off is at 7:30.
Right, so it's going to have to be an early dinner.
Yeah. So what time have you booked the restaurant for?
7:30. I'm in trouble.
But it's kick-off at 7:30. That's never going to work.
No, I'm in trouble.
So So have you thought about maybe buying him an iPad and putting it on the iPad so he can sit there?
Yeah, have to be like a toddler putting the
Because
the
I've got
iPad
to tell
on the
you,
table.
for my wife's birthday, on the 28th of December, Spurs were playing Brighton, and I was sitting there with my wife and daughter and son, and me and my son found ourselves with an iPad we were watching, and it wasn't the right thing to do.
Oh, you did that on her birthday.
Did you get really in trouble?
Well, no, it was OK, but I know it wasn't the right thing to do. But seeing as it's his birthday...
But you did it anyway.
I did it anyway. I couldn't help it. I had to find out. I just had to keep an eye on it. But anyway, Spurs-Chelsea, after the first Spurs-Chelsea game, which happened at Tottenham earlier in the year, it was Spurs were playing great, and then they ended up getting 2 players sent off. Then they had this full press where they were going forward, and Chelsea ended up scoring 4. And it was a game that pretty much turned the season. So Mauricio Pochettino, of course... ex-Spurs manager, now at Chelsea. He's walking a bit of a tightrope at the moment, whether he's actually going to stick around there because he's not getting the results they want. So anyway, you know what? It's London, and it's going to be a ding-dong. It's going to be a London ding-dong. It's a local derby. 7:30 tonight.
Excellent.
And Ellie is going to
and I'll have to change my table,
I don't know what you're in so much trouble either which way, I think, frankly. Aston Villa taking on Olympiacos.
Yes, Olympiacos of Greece. That's in the semi-final of the Europa Conference League. So they're doing OK.
And one of us knows.
I'm glad one of us is there, thank goodness.
This is all so confusing. Champions League, Premier League, Europa Conference League, it's all happening at once.
It is all happening at once. But the thing is, that's the only chance that any English team's got of a European trophy. Yeah. And that's Aston Villa. And that then affects the coefficient, and we don't want to get to the coefficient.
Oh, no, it gets very confusing.
And then everything, so forget that. So, yeah. What else do you want to do? Do you want a little snooker?
Snooker.
Oh, yeah.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, Rocket Ronnie, is out of the World Championships. He was going for his 8th and 7, and he was going for the Triple Crown. He's already won the Masters. He's already won the British. There he is. That's a really nice picture of him with his tongue sticking out. That's a bit more like it. But he was knocked out, lost 13-10 to Stuart Bingham yesterday. Also, another former champion is the world number 2, Judd Trump, also out, beaten by Jack Jones, not the singer that did the theme from The Love Boat. That's another Jack Jones.
Oh, right.
Yeah, 13-9. So for the first time since, I think it's 1977, there are 3 players in the semi-finals that had to qualify to get in there. Unprecedented in the snooker, Stephen, is what it is.
The snooker's hotting up.
It is hot,
isn't it?
Yeah.
After a few years of being a bit on the dull side.
Yeah.
Well, they're trying.
They are. See, it's a really tricky thing because back in the day when it was really popular, there was no Sky Sports. There was only certain sports. It was only on national TV that you'd be able to see any sport. So everybody would gravitate to that. But now there's so much other sport.
Yeah.
That's why they're suffering. That's why they're having trouble.
Should we talk about F1?
Yeah, Adrian Newey. Yeah, we did mention him last week, didn't we? Do you remember? Chief designer for Red Bull, wasn't happy with the whole Christian Horner situation and wanted out away from Red Bull. So they've agreed that he is going to leave. He's now talking to Ferrari. They've probably got an open checkbook and just say, well, you name your price, because he is so important to the team. There he is talking to Christian, who put a lovely tribute to him, but I wonder what he really, really thinks, because he's so important. He's the man that designs the cars that are so successful. And when he's been, for example, at McLaren, after that, the team has not done so well once he's left.
But has he left because of this whole scandal?
We believe that to be the case. He's unhappy with the way the whole thing was handled. So if he goes to Ferrari, which is also where Lewis Hamilton is going to be next year, and he designs a new car, it looks like Ferrari is going to be the place to be over the next couple of years. That's why I'm probably leaving for Ferrari. I'm keeping that under. Don't mention it.
And can we have a quick look at the Olympic flame?
Oh, yeah, I like to keep you updated with the Olympics, just to keep us excited, because it's coming up at the end of the summer or end of July. The Olympic flame is on board Belen.
Belen. Careful. Oh, there it is.
Belen.
Oh, it's tiny.
There it is. There's the Olympic flame. Look at that tiny little Olympic flame. Is it fair? I don't know whether there's gas involved in that, because is that fair to keep it alive with gas?
I don't know.
Well, apart from, that's what they keep it alive with anyway.
Well, I suppose so, but you know what? It's just that little tiny flame. If it goes out, will they just go, quick, just light it up? And someone's having a watch. Oh, there we are. That's like lighter fluid, isn't it, they're putting in there? But anyway, it's on an 11-day voyage across the Mediterranean. It's heading towards Marseille in the south of France. Look at that. Be careful. Don't swing that thing too much, because if that goes out, look, that man probably has to sleep alongside it to make sure it stays alive.
So tiny.
Is it right that it's lit from the rays of the sun and wherever?
That is what's supposed to happen, in Olympia. And so they have the race. It's like when you would have a magnifying glass and
ants
set fire to ants. So they'd sit there like that, and then they'd light it. But apparently it was too cloudy, so they couldn't. They actually needed a little bit of help, so they couldn't actually light it from the sun when it happened. So anyway, when they did light it, then they took it to Athens, and then it's gone off in this ship, which was actually built the same year of the first Olympics in 1896.
Right.
Goes across the Mediterranean. Am I boring you yet, or are you still with me?
No, I just think the crux of it all is it was actually lit with a match.
Yes, but it was a Greek match. It was a Greek match. So now it goes to France, and it's going all around the world, to all the French territories. 68-day French torch relay, and will arrive in Marseille on May the 8th, and we're expecting about 150,000 people to welcome the little lantern as it's lit, and then eventually we'll end up in Paris and light the torch.
Good stuff.
It is a bit odd.
It's an odd tradition, but I do, because I was in Beijing for the closing ceremony.
Yeah.
In 2008. And
was this when you were the Olympic high jump champion? Was it then?
Yes, well, it was. But when the Olympic flame went out at the very end,
yes,
it was really emotional.
Was it?
Oh, yeah.
But they were giving you the music. They were giving it. It is. I know what you mean, because that's it. It's gone for another 4 years.
It was. Considering I'm not a huge, sports nut, the whole thing was a really emotional experience being there for a week.
Yeah,
exactly. Stephen, that's
nice. It was.
I love the whole thing with the flame. I mean, that's it. We laugh about the flame and how they're going to do that, what they're going to do with it on a plane, how they're going to fly. But it's very symbolic, and then eventually the flame will reach Paris. Yeah. So, and don't forget, there's often secrecy that surrounds who's going to light the flame. So what do you mean? Gerard Depardieu or something. Who do you reckon it could be? A famous French person. I don't know. We could maybe have a look at that. Yeah.
Wait and see.
Edith Piaf, she's dead.
Juliette Binoche.
Oh, yeah, Juliette Binoche. Yeah, she'd be very good.
Yeah, you never know. Right, we'll see you a little bit later on.
OK, got good stuff for you.
Thank you. We'll be going through the papers shortly, won't we? With Charlie Rowley and Lucy Beresford. See you soon.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Buses replaced trains between Scunthorpe and Doncaster because of a landslip in Flintshire. The A541 remains closed in both directions along Denby Road in Mould after a fire. Earlier this week, on the M4 in Berkshire, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed eastbound after an accident between junctions 6 and 5 near Slough, causing queues. Train services are suspended between London Bridge and Beckenham Junction because of a signalling problem. In Surrey, the A309 is closed off the A3 from Hook to Hinchley Wood after an accident overnight. On the M26 in Kent, there are westbound queues towards the roadworks as you join the M25, and there are delays of up to half an hour with some cancelled trains between Fareham and Portsmouth and Southsea, where overnight engineering works have overrun. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News with Dubes & Co from 6, followed by Farage at 7. At 8, Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg addresses the state of the nation. And at 9, join Patrick Christie's Tonight, followed by Headliners at 11. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
6:44 morning to you. Let's have a look at some of the newspapers today. The Daily Mail leads with the day that Rwanda became reality after the first migrants earmarked for removal were detained yesterday.
The Guardian leads with Labour facing criticism over a loophole in the plan to ban zero-hour contracts.
The Eye has the UK's Rwanda plans being delayed, apparently, as civil servants sue the government.
The Telegraph leads with the Republic of Ireland sending police to the border of the UK over a migrant row.
All right, let's see what our guests make of it all this morning. Lucy Beresford and Charlie Rowley are here. Good to see you both this morning.
Morning.
Charlie, let's start with this supposed delay, well, another one, to the Rwanda plan as reported in the Eye.
Well, saddle up and strap yourselves in, because this is what's going to be the dividing lines of the next general election, and it is the general election where these two parties have clearly a divide over who effectively runs Britain. And, you know, the Conservative government has put forward a Rwanda plan. It's now on the statute book. That is in law. And here you have the unions ramping up the rhetoric again to suggest that actually, no, we can't implement the policy because it might break international law. And the question is, who runs Britain? Is it Whitehall civil servants that have constantly frustrated and delayed any kind of process in this country, whether it was Brexit, now it's Rwanda, or is it UK ministers, whoever they are? It could be Labour UK ministers in government. But do civil servants run the show, or is it the government? And I think people will be up in arms this morning that yet again the chairman of the FDA, Dave Penham, who I know very well, obviously, is threatening to challenge the government. Who is he? Who are these? You know, the government.
Well, if you ever watch Yes Minister, you know full well the civil service does run.
Well, they try. They certainly try. But it is not for civil servants to decide a UK government policy. They are there to implement what ministers have decided. It is now clearly legal, the Rwanda policy. That's on the statute book. That's what should be implemented.
Lucy?
Well, it definitely is going to be the dividing line at the next general election. The question is whether it should be, because the polling does suggest that it's not necessarily in the top three of the concerns of the majority of voters. Maybe that will change. Maybe the more that we talk about the Rwanda policy, the more that we see people being given £3,000 to get on a commercial flight to go to Rwanda, maybe that will change people's minds. But it'll be very interesting to see whether it could ever eclipse really big things like cost of living crisis, cost of living, economy in general, or the NHS.
Lucy, let's stay with you, shall we, and look at the front page of The Times this morning. And this is pro-Palestinian groups. We see them set up at universities across the US, haven't we? And now it's come over here to UK campuses.
Yeah, so what we saw overnight was really big clashes in America. And, you know, the police getting involved and the police actually talking about how there are outside agents perhaps stirring up trouble. So it's not just students fighting students. And human beings are very imitative creatures. We learn about the world by copying other people. And one can't help feeling that what's happening is that America has had this issue, and what is happening in the UK is that some of the university campuses are saying, oh, we better do something similar. So we are seeing certain Russell Group universities, Leeds, Sheffield, Bristol, maybe Newcastle. We also saw a few things happening in Glasgow a few months ago. But the idea that actually now this kind of protest, pro-Palestinian, but very specifically anti-Israeli protest happening on the campuses in the UK, don't know whether that's a good idea.
Well, I just think there's a total lack of leadership on behalf of the university UK sector. Where are the chancellors, where are the vice-chancellors of the universities to say, actually, this is a place where you can have debate? Universities are there to challenge people's opinion, to come with opinion, but to be challenged and be open to new ideas. Universities need to create the space for people and speakers of all kinds to turn up, to give a view. You can reject that view, but you can do so in a way that is academic, not through protests and through intimidation, and allowing students on campus, whether it's particularly whether you're Jewish perhaps on campus, to feel isolated or feel as though that you can't turn up to your lectures or feel as though that you are living in fear. That is totally wrong, but there is a total absence of leadership, I think.
Oh, well, I think the chancellors would argue that actually this is part of their remit to allow the protests to take place, that actually you don't want to stifle dissent, you don't want to cancel free speech. The question is it going to turn violent like it did in the States last night?
What are they asking for? I heard one of the protesters this morning saying, we're going to keep doing this till our demands are met. That's what their demands are.
Well, some of their demands are to do with the investment that the universities are making in companies, for example, that send arms to Israel. So it's quite convoluted. You'd have to try and find out how universities are funded and what they're doing with their share portfolio. But it reminds me of the old Barclays protests back in the sort of 80s, where you'd get students insisting that their universities didn't buy their oranges from South Africa, and whether that was actually enough to change the regime in South Africa, clearly not. To get universities to stop banking with Barclays, for example, who was felt to be a bank that had too much exposure in South Africa. So a similar thing is happening here. But again, all of that's fine. Let's hope it doesn't get violent.
No, well, let's hope not. I mean, part of it, apart from the bit that is anti-Israeli, which concerns me, but the idea of students protesting and having a sit-in, generally, although I'm not for...
If it's peaceful.
Yeah, I'm not for it, but part of me thinks, well, the students, they're going to jump on a bandwagon, let them play it out. But it's the anti-Semitism elements which seem to be developing, which is the worry.
Totally. And look, no one is saying that you can't protest, and no one is saying that you can't have an opinion about something, and it should be organised in the usual way. But what you can't do, and what protests should not be there for, is to ride roughshod over people's liberties and to cause intimidation and fear, particularly amongst the Jewish community and Jewish students, where you're seeing, particularly in the US, students barricading themselves into the libraries because of a protest that is taking place, where police have had to intervene in the US. We don't want to see that in the UK. I mean, I remember the last sort of student sort of protests and rallies all the way back in 2011, where somebody broke into, I think it was actually CCHQ, Conservative Central Headquarters, and threw a fire extinguisher off the top of the building. So things can escalate if protests become violent. We don't want to see that in the UK. But of course, the universities are there to challenge people's views, but it has to be done in a way in which is academic and appropriate and doesn't incite fear or intimidation.
OK. Can we have a look at sunbeds?
Yes.
Charlie, this is in the Daily Mail. Dear me, a lot of people do like to go a bit orange on the old sunbeds, don't they? But they're not the safest way of doing it.
They're absolutely not. And I'll be jetting off this afternoon, straight after this to Palmer.
With your factor 50.
With my factor 50, exactly. Because that is the best way, I think, to pick up a healthy tan. But there is a serious point to this, because there are too many people that are using sunbeds who know of the impact, the negative health impacts of causing melanoma skin cancer. 60% of people who do use sunbeds, when polled, over 2,000 people, are aware of it. 40% were not. But there is a younger person sort of approach to it. So you can't use a sunbed if you're under 18. That's been banned. But between 18 and 24, there's a huge increase in the number of people that are using it because they want to look like the people that they see on Love Island or what they see on TikTok or social media. It is very glamorous, it's very tan, it's very very nice. But they feel as though the quick fix is going on a sunbed.
It's fine to use a sunbed, isn't it, if you're just using it very occasionally?
No, I don't think any use of a sunbed is safe.
No. Really?
Yeah, I think it's...
No, because I think it's a gateway drug, in a way.
Oh,
You use it once. Yeah, you use it once
it's
and you
very
think
bad
it's okay.
for you.
And then you end up being the 1 in 4 that uses it all the time. And there are fake tan products. The problem is, how come nobody has ever developed a fake tan product that doesn't smell really rank? Can someone really look into that, please? Because that would cure this immediately.
I think a lot of us would.
How many people put fake tan on and then it all goes streaky and horrible or orange?
Are you looking at me specifically?
No, I'm not.
for that?
No, I'm thinking about...
Am I looking streaky?
I'm thinking about my brother-in-law, actually, who's just put a load of fake tan on and has gone... He looks like a chocolate orange.
Oh.
And is he watching now?
Very possibly. Morning, David.
Morning, David.
You orange devil.
Yeah, according to a doctor, a dermatologist, there's no such thing as a safe tan on a sunbed. No such thing.
There we go.
They are very, very bad for you. I'm surprised 1 in 4 is still using it, actually. I thought people didn't do that anymore. OK, Lucy, let's have a look at smacking children. Most people want smacking children to be banned in law. This is in The Telegraph today.
Yeah, almost 3/4 of the public that were polled said that they thought this was true, that actually we're now beginning to really equate it with violence to children. And when you frame it in those terms, actually that seems really abhorrent. Now, the difficulty is that children don't know right from wrong. They don't know that you mustn't put your finger in a plug socket. They don't know that if you run out in front of traffic that you might die. So that sense that you're trying to correct behaviour is really important. But the problem is there are too many people who have, you know, we grown-ups, we have lots of issues going on in our lives, and sometimes, inadvertently, we get very frustrated or we take things out on our kids, and we're there really to try and protect children. And I've had so many people come to see me clinically where one of the features that they remember about their childhood is that inappropriate smacking. It felt very unjust. It felt like a really big person taking it out on a small person. And I think if we can correct that and try to... You don't necessarily have to reason with your kids at all. I'm not one of these people that thinks that you should treat your children like mini grown-ups. I think you do still have to treat them as children. But sending a child to the naughty step is a completely different way of trying to correct their behaviour instead of smacking them. I love your facial expressions when I talk to you, because I think you think most of the things I say is completely bizarre.
Yes, I don't agree with that. I think there is a minority of people who use smacking against children in a totally inappropriate way. But I think for the vast majority, then you've got parents just wanting to discipline a child, often for safety reasons. But they're having that outlawed for the sake of a minority who are misbehaving.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's right.
Do we need a ban? Do let us know what you think. gbnews.com/yoursay. Charlie, Lucy, thank you very much.
We are out of time.
Indeed, we are out of time, I'm afraid. We're going to look at the weather now with Alex Deakin.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Some places seeing some pleasant warm May sunshine today, but staying fairly cloudy in the south, and in eastern areas a chilly breeze off the North Sea. Had some big thunderstorms through the night across the south. Still a few heavy downpours here and there this morning. Parts of southern England, the Midlands and South Wales in particular. The rain will ease a little bit through the day, but staying fairly dull and damp across the southwest. Some brighter skies for East Anglia, Northern England, Northern Ireland and a good chunk of Scotland. Western Scotland in particular, 21, maybe 22 degrees, but much cooler on these eastern coasts with that breeze coming in from the sea, and cooler with the cloud and the showery rain across the southwestern quarter. That rain will continue well into this evening as well. And then later in the night, we need to look at further pulses of heavy rain, potentially further thunderstorms coming into parts of East Anglia. Further north, it generally stays dry. There'll be some clearer spells, but quite a bit of cloud. That'll keep the temperatures up 9 to 11 Celsius. On to tomorrow, and it's a similar story. We're going to start pretty grey over the Midlands and Wales with some outbreaks of rain, but heavier rain coming into parts of eastern England, so a different feel across northeast England in particular. Again, the potential for 1 or 2 thunderstorms. Brighter day in southwest England. Again, chilly on some of these North Sea coasts with temperatures really struggling under the cloud, but yet again, if you like warm sunshine, western Scotland will be the place to be.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Buses replaced trains between Scunthorpe and Doncaster because of a landslip. In Conway, the A55 North Wales Expressway is closed westbound from junction 16A at Doiga Vulky to 15A at Penmaenmawr after an accident. There are delays as you divert. In Flintshire, the A541 remains closed along Denby Road in Mould after a fire on Tuesday afternoon. The M4 in the Vale of Glamorgan is partly blocked eastbound by an accident at junction 34 at Miskin, causing delays. On the M4 in Berkshire, there are eastbound queues after traffic was stopped because of an accident in junction 6 and 5 from the Slough on Windsor Turn to Langley. Train services in London are suspended between Beckenham Junction and London Bridge because of a signalling problem. On the M26 in Kent, there are westbound queues towards the roadworks going on to the M25. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
We've blown the budget by giving you the chance to win a totally terrific £20,000 in tax-free cash to make your summer spectacular. You could use that cash to splash out on a holiday, make the garden glam, buy a new car, or just save it for a rainy day. Whatever you'd spend £20,000 on, make sure you don't miss the chance to make it yours. For a chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Very good morning to you. It is 7 o'clock on Thursday, the 2nd of May. Today, Ireland's government says no police will be sent to the border after an increase in asylum seekers crossing following the passing of the Rwanda bill.
The Scottish Government breathes a sigh of relief as they survive a vote of no confidence, winning it by 70 votes to 58.
Donald Trump's hush money trial continues today after being held in contempt of court, fined more than £7,000 and threatened with jail if he continues to break gag orders.
Princess Charlotte, who's third in line to the throne, celebrates her 9th birthday today. Happy birthday, Princess Charlotte.
Now, you might have been woken up by thunderstorms. Weather warnings are being extended by the Met Office across a large part of southern England, and that came after the hottest day of the year so far.
After some big thunderstorms last night, still a few showers across the south today, but for many, there'll be some pleasant warm spring sunshine, especially so in western Scotland. Could last into tomorrow as well. Join me later for a full forecast.
And in the sport, Jadon Sancho cut through the Paris Saint-Germain defence last night like a German Zweihander sword through French camembert. What do you think about that, Jill? What do you think? Huh?
That's very.
It's not bad, is it?
That's very poetic. Did you write that?
Yes, I'm working on that one. Anyway, as Paris Saint-Germain lost to Dortmund 1-0 in the Champions League semi-final. First leg. There's London Derby tonight as Chelsea play Spurs and Ronnie O'Sullivan is knocked out of the World Snooker Championship. No.
He's getting too clever. Where are you going now?
That's it. I can't. That's it. You know what? It's the sword. It's the Zweihander sword. It's just too much for me.
He's had enough.
I'm really impressed. He's going for a quick lie down.
Thanks, Paul Coy.
I'm Stephen Dix.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
I mean, why you couldn't just say, like, a hot knife through butter? I don't know. But, you see, that's Paul Coit for
He
you.
has to get poetic, doesn't he?
He does.
He's a funny man.
I was...
very good.
I was very impressed with him in a weird way. For this time of day...
He's good at accents, is our Paul Coit. Can do all the good European accents.
He is very good at accents.
Oh, this is a nice one from Anne. Anne Jeffrey says, morning, my two favourite presenters. Going to be a lovely day here in York.
I haven't been to York in ages. I love York.
York's a lovely part of the world. Yeah.
Loads of you getting in touch on tans. Warwick says, spray tan, very simple, no problems.
Warwick B.
But is that... Do you not have to... Forgive me. Do you not have to stand there being sprayed by someone as you wear paper underpants?
Yes, that is true.
Have you done it?
Yeah. There's no...
I don't think I
There's no grace in it.
I don't think I could bring myself to do that.
No, you have to be quite brave. You have to like your tanning person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
It's not great.
I think women are better at that sort of thing. Women are better at that sort of thing. But there you go. I just find it very strange.
Yes.
All that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't bring myself to do it. But then I don't know if I could do the whole fake tan where you rub it on and then see what colour you turn out to be in the morning.
I know, you're probably better just to book a few nice holidays, I think, and then maintain your tan. That's probably the way to go.
But then is that not as bad as going on a sunbed?
No, it's a lot worse going on a sunbed. It's concentrated. It's a lot more UV. I don't quite understand it. It's not something that I do, but it's not very good for you. I know that much. There's no safe amount of sunbeds, but people still do it.
Interesting on the smacking thing. Loads of you getting into us, and sort of similar views to me, really. I've got to say that, not to say that I'm right. John says you shouldn't ban smacking children, but it should only be used as a last deterrent, like if your child runs into a road, sort of thing. Stephen says on smacking children, prior to the 1990s, children and youths behaved far better in society than they are today. Could it be the psychologists have got it wrong about lovingly disciplining children with the use of a tap, too often referred to as a smack? See, that's an interesting one. A tap, you know, at what point, how do you define what
Where's the line?
Is?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what my mother used to do.
What's she do?
She was a teacher. Well, we keep going, yes, our parents were teachers.
We don't have the same parents.
No. But if I did it... No, no, they won't say that. What she used to do is she'd hold my hand like that.
Yeah.
And then smack her own hand.
Oh.
And then apparently I would cry my head off.
Because you'd be upset about her?
No, because I'd be upset because you still get the shock of the smack, but it hasn't actually hit you.
It's hit her.
It's hit her.
She's such a good
mummy. So that's what she did. But would that end up being banned? Because if anyone saw you do it, it would be like, oh, she smacked her child. So it's common sense, isn't it? But then you have got to protect those children who are being, frankly, abused by violence. So how do you do it? I don't know.
Yeah,
I just don't think blanket bans are the way
I don't know,
forward.
but we were talking to someone the other day, because neither of us are parents, but we were talking to someone the other day, and we said, do people smack their children now? Because when I was growing up, they still did. And apparently, no.
Oh.
Apparently it's not a thing anymore.
So it was the threat of a smack.
Maybe it's...
is
you probably only need to do it
sometimes
the once, don't you? And then it's just a threat.
You've got to... There's got to be some consequences. Anita says sometimes you have to smack your child to show them there's consequences to their behaviour. That's exactly why kids today have no fear for their actions and walk over parents, teachers, and not scared of authority. And I do think there is a real issue with that, actually. It's complete lack of concern for authority.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, heck, if a teacher told you to stop doing something or take your hands out your pockets, whatever it was, you did it.
You would do it, wouldn't you? Well, do keep those views coming in on smacking children. And also the weather, lots of you getting in touch on that. Talking about a tan, Patricia just says you could just stand in a field in Barrow when spreading is happening.
Oh, is someone else in Barrow?
Yeah.
Oh, hello.
That's Patricia in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, or a bit of muck spreading.
A bit of muck spreading, exactly that.
Ooh.
Yes. So do keep them coming in. gbnews.com/you'll-say.
There's no finer smell.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're mad.
It's a sort of feeling like you're back in the country. If I smell it anywhere, I was like, oh, it's like being back home.
Oh.
A bit of muck spreading. Puts hairs on your chest.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't be for me. Do keep your views coming in. Just one last one, sorry, from Grant. Indulge me on this one. Good morning, Ellie and Stephen. You two are an absolute ray of sunshine. The way you bounce off each other is just wonderful. Have a great day, and have a great day too, Grant. Hope it's not raining where you are.
I like it when we get nice comments.
That's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very nice.
Right, Ireland's government has confirmed there will be no Irish police deployed to the border with Northern Ireland. Well, tensions between London and Dublin have increased over recent days after Ireland's Justice Minister claimed there had been an upsurge in asylum seekers crossing the border as a result of the Rwanda bill being passed.
Well, let's speak now to Benedict Spence, who joins us this morning. He's a political commentator. Good to see you this morning, Benedict. So we see this tension rising, don't we, between Dublin and London. Where do you think we go from here?
Well, I suppose that's very tricky. It's a bit of a godsend, I suppose, for Rishi Sunak to actually have non-British politicians coming out and suggesting that his policy might be having some sort of impact, because obviously then he can turn around and say to all the naysayers in this country, well, there you see, here's a respected European politician saying actually that it is having a deterrent, even if it's forcing people into another country. The Irish government is, I think, in a very difficult situation, in that it hasn't really prepared for any sort of influx in migrant numbers, because it has never considered itself a country to which many people, a net number of people, would move to. It's always been a net exporter of people, very famously. You combine that, I think, with the anger that there has been growing in parts of the Republic over large numbers of migrants arriving, and the behaviour of some of those migrants and the resources that are being given to them. And I think you can see that it's a rather difficult situation. And blaming the British government is a very easy way, I think, to curry favour in the Republic at the best of times, certainly on this. But the efforts to move people back to the UK, efforts to put people, police on the border, the Irish government has gone to great lengths to say that a hard border on the island of Ireland would be unacceptable for various different reasons. They can't, in all good conscience, turn around now and say a hard border is unacceptable, except for this very limited and specific thing that is now beginning to affect us, which should be an EU-wide issue. In terms of returning people, the UK government has been very firm on this, which is that they're not going to accept people who have arrived in Ireland and have claimed asylum there, or at the very least they're not going to do that until there are reciprocal agreements with other countries, specifically France. Of course, election year in France, Emmanuel Macron is not polling particularly well. Migration is a very serious issue there. That's not going to be a thing either. So I imagine, actually, that the Irish government finds itself in a very difficult situation where it is going to just have to, I think, suck it up a little bit and take a lot more people than it expected. It's also going to have to hope that Rishi Sunak is in fact right, and that the Rwanda scheme does prove a deterrent, and that the British government is able to limit the numbers of people crossing illegally into the UK via the Channel, because ultimately that is how people are going to get to the Republic via that Northern Irish border. It's going to have to hope that Sunak is right and that they are able to stem the tide, because otherwise there will continue to be, it must be said, not a particularly large number compared to other European countries, but still a large enough number to cause real political pain in Ireland, I think.
Yeah, but it is fascinating. I mean, you touched on it there, but this idea that the Irish government is saying we're enacting emergency legislation so we can send these people back to Britain, where Britain can't send them back to France. I mean, the hypocrisy is quite something.
It is, and it's actually, it flies in the face slightly of what a lot of commentators say in this country, which is that Britain is almost alone in its desire to be beastly towards people who are coming, and that the Rwanda scheme is sort of uniquely awful. Actually, European countries in general are struggling with this issue. Lots of them are trying to come up with solutions to the problem. The Danish government came up with a hilarious wheeze a couple of years ago, where it decided that even though it didn't legally recognize the government of Syria, it was going to decide that certain parts of Syria were safe so that it could deport people back. There have been other agreements or attempts at agreements with other countries to try to expatriate people to third nations for processing. A lot of European governments are looking at the Rwanda scheme rather carefully because they want to be able to weigh up the political cost to it, to see whether or not they can implement something themselves. Now, the Republic, as I say, it's never really faced this issue before, but countries like Germany and France are absolutely interested in seeing how this goes. As you say, the hypocrisy there with a lot of commentary saying that these sort of repatriation schemes are awful is tempered by political reality, which is that the numbers of people coming are proving incredibly unpopular in a lot of European countries, and the resources are being stretched too thin. There has to be a solution to this beyond simply let people in and put them up at the taxpayer's expense, because increasingly a lot of people are not happy to put up with that.
Benedict, we can see that this is causing tension in the Republic of Ireland. We've seen protests there for the last week or so. How much do you believe in what the government is saying here, that this is because of the Rwanda scheme and it's working as a deterrent?
I don't actually believe that that is why people are going to the Republic of Ireland. Ultimately, the Republic of Ireland it's a safe country. People speak English there, so it has many of the benefits that the UK does. But actually, you don't have the same drain on resources relatively as you do in the UK. There hasn't been this sort of ongoing process of people coming to the Republic. So it's sort of seen as slightly more fertile ground. We also have to remember, actually, that this uptick, it's not just happened in the last couple of months. It has been a gradually increasing process since 2021-22. It's only now that it's sort of reached a critical mass. Ireland, I suppose, therefore, is paying the price for its own success. And we also have to remember, if you're a migrant and you're coming to Europe and you're trying to think, right, well, where would be a good place for me to be economically? Ireland has massaged its economic figures for some time via the fact that it is effectively a tax haven. Many large international corporations that want to operate in the Eurozone and the European Union base themselves in Ireland because of favourable tax situations. That boosts the performance of Ireland's economy. Its GDP appears to be doing a lot better than it actually is. Why wouldn't people look at the Republic of Ireland and think, financially, that's not a bad place. It seems like a very wealthy country. Why have I never thought of this before?
Okay.
Oh, well, interesting. Benedict, good to see you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, the Scottish Government has survived a confidence vote at the Scottish Parliament yesterday.
Scottish Labour tabled the motion after the collapse of the power-sharing deal between the SNP and the Scottish Greens.
Well, it was defeated by 58 votes for to 70 against.
OK, let's talk to the political editor of HuffPost UK, Kevin Schofield, himself a proud Scot, of course. Kevin, good morning to you.
Morning.
I have to say, I was a little bit surprised that this motion was defeated, in the sense that the SNP seemed to be very much on its own. So who's rallied to support them? Because, I mean, they won it quite comfortably.
Yeah, it was the Greens who supported them. They said once their beef was with Humza Yousaf after he dumped them last week. Obviously, they were very angry. The Greens, they said that they would have supported a confidence motion against Humza Yousaf, but obviously he resigned earlier in the week, so that didn't go ahead. But Labour continued with their own motion of no confidence in the Scottish Government as a whole. But the Greens said, well, look, Humza Yousaf's gone. We actually quite like the Scottish Government. We don't want the Scottish Government to fall. We certainly don't want an election in Scotland, so therefore we'll support the Scottish Government. But, I mean, it doesn't mean that the SNP are out of the woods, far from it.
So why do you think Labour, Scottish Labour, actually pressed ahead with that motion, despite the fact that Humza Yousaf had actually already offered his resignation and said he was going to step down?
That's a really good question. I mean, they could easily just have pulled it as well, because they were always going to lose it, actually. It was pretty obvious that they were going to lose it. I think it was just a bit of parliamentary theatre as much as anything else. I think they wanted to get on the record their opposition to the Scottish Government and basically embarrass the SNP by rehearsing all the failures of the Scottish Government, because the record is pretty poor, to be honest, when it comes to education, NHS, public services, things like that. So if you leave the SNP's own internal problems aside for one moment, the actual Scottish Government performance hasn't been great. So I think Labour just wanted to have a day or have an afternoon where they could give the Scottish Government a kicking. But, as I say, it was never really on the cards that they were going to bring the government down over this.
It's going to be difficult to pull the SNP up by its bootstraps, whoever takes the helm. And that's, I think, what is it about a month or so till the new leader is in place. What are we to make of John Swinney, who's been around for a very long time? It looks like he's going to throw his hat into the ring today.
Yeah, I think if John Swinney wants it, then John Swinney will get it. He's very popular with the SNP grassroots. I think it all hinges. It could all be over very quickly, actually. If Kate Forbes, who's the other main challenger. If she was to decide not to put her name forward and she's yet to declare, then I think John Swinney would get it without a contest, in which case it would all be over very quickly. I mean, he's very experienced. He's been in and around frontline of Scottish politics for many decades. I remember when he was leader before, from 2000 until 2004, before being dumped. He wasn't a very good SNP leader then, but that was a very different time. They were in opposition. They were a bit of a rabble, to be honest with you. That was before Alex Salmond came back and got them back into government. Since then, he's had several very high-profile jobs in government: Finance Secretary, Education Secretary, Deputy First Minister. And I think he was looking forward to a quiet life, actually. He'd moved back to the back benches. I don't think he had any major ambitions. And lo and behold, this opportunity has presented itself, and the SNP hierarchy have decided that they need someone with experience, a steady hand at the helm to try and get them through these. And
just very briefly, Kevin, do you think this means that the SNP, I mean, if they can instill a new leader quite quickly, they could be out of the woods?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say they would be out of the woods. I mean, they're still neck and neck with Labour in the opinion polls, not doing that well. I think they're going to lose a lot of seats in the general election. There's no doubt about that. Then all eyes in Scotland will be on the 2026 Scottish Parliament election, where they will be trying to hang on to power. But they've been in power for a very long time, 17 years. It'll be nearly 20 years by the time that election comes round. And usually, you know, as we've seen at Westminster, governments eventually just run out of energy, they run out of ideas, and the public get a bit sick of the sight of them. So I think they'll have a real challenge on their hands to hang on to power then.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, interesting times north of the border. Kevin, for now, thank you very much indeed. If you're watching in Scotland this morning, what do you think? gbnews.com/your say on that one. I mean, I have to say, John Swinney, I've met and interviewed John Swinney quite a few times. I was up in it was the 2017 general election. I was up in Glasgow and he popped along for a chat and all that. He's a really nice fella, actually. I've got a lot of time for him as a person. Nothing to do with his politics. But he's also got a bit of charisma about him.
Yeah, I heard him speaking this week, and he was being asked if he'd go for SNP leader. And he said he needs to think about it because he needs to think about his family first. I thought that was quite a nice answer.
Yeah.
He didn't say no.
No, didn't say no.
And I think we're fully expecting him to launch his campaign today.
Would he walk it, though, or not? I don't know. And would he be a continuity candidate, which is what Humza Yousaf was meant to be, and that obviously hasn't worked out for him. You do wonder if it is, you know, running out of steam a little bit, the SNP.
Yeah. Let us know what you think. Keep them coming in. Now, at 19 minutes past 7, let's take a quick look at some other top stories this morning. And voters go to the polls for key council and mayoral elections today. Police and crime commissioners will also be chosen. There is a by-election in Blackpool too.
14-year-old stabbed to death in north-east London on Tuesday has been named as Daniel Anjurin. Marcus Arduini Monzo will appear in court charged with murder.
The UK's biggest indoor venue, Manchester's Co-op Live Arena, was forced to postpone its opening event yet again. A US rappers concert was halted at the last minute because of technical issues, adding to the list of events that haven't fully gone ahead.
A group of more than 10,000 black cab drivers suing Uber after accusing it of breaching taxi booking rules in London between May 2012 and March 2018. If they were to win, it could cost Uber more than £250 million.
Now, students in America are continuing pro-Palestinian protests at the University of California.
Yeah, well, yesterday, violent scenes broke out. 300 people or thereabouts were arrested during police crackdowns on some of those protests. In the early hours of Wednesday, police were called to Columbia University in New York.
Well, these are the scenes now. I've got live pictures at UCLA in California. We can see there the Palestinian flag being waved. It is pitch black there, obviously the middle of the night. And looks as though there is a sit-in taking place. Lots of tents have been erected as well.
I guess the key question is how much is legitimate protest and showing concern for what is happening in Gaza, and how much is therefore is is just becoming anti-Israeli sentiment with the potential of becoming anti-Semitic. That's the concern. Plus, everything, of course, is grinding to a halt at the university, so it's preventing anything else from happening. There's also been comments about saying they don't want to be taught by Israeli lecturers and issues like that. So that is hugely problematic. But the police seem to be weighing in. Should the police weigh in on these sort of things, or should it be left to sort of fizzle out, really? Which, well, you'd imagine it would do eventually.
Well, we know that a number of arrests have been made, almost 300 of arrests have been made of students. At the moment, the scene at UCLA does look quite peaceful, doesn't it? But it is vast. That is a large part of the campus there taken up. Many of these students are wearing face masks, aren't they? They have been for several days now. So do let us know what you think about that. Is it right that the police are arresting students? Like you say, it's that line, isn't it, when it becomes anti-Semitic or anti-Israel. And we're also seeing these sorts of scenes starting to come over to UK universities. Leeds, Newcastle, Bristol, those sorts of Russell Group universities. We're starting to see smaller but similar themed protests.
Yeah, sort of jumping on the bandwagon a little bit. And I think it's very difficult because, in a way, students will be students. It's a time when you can be sort of very vocal about things and debate things, and if you want to protest, and I'm not necessarily sure that is a bad thing, but it obviously becomes a bad thing if it becomes anti-Semitic, and that's the line that can't be crossed. I think student protests have happened for time immemorial. That's what students like to do.
Yes, that's true. But this is the largest university that we're looking at now in California, and classes there have been cancelled for the foreseeable, so it's causing a lot of disruption. Bringing you those live pictures there from UCLA campus in California.
Just a quick one on the SNP. Gary's been in touch saying, "Morning, you two. I've voted SNP at every election since 1987, but can no longer support a government that has clearly lost its way. Alba Party for me next time." So there you go.
Yes, how much damage has been done by this whole debacle?
Don't know. I suspect quite a lot. Oh, another one. If Gary, get back in touch. Let me know, because we see Alba Party. It's spelled ALBA, but I've heard several Scottish reporters say Alaba.
Yeah, I've heard that as well this week. We were talking about it, weren't we?
Last week,
we should have asked Kevin Schofield.
Yeah, Alaba. So are you meant to say Alaba or just Alba? If you know, Gary, or anyone else north of the border, let us know.
Yeah, Gary, let us know what you think. Should we have a look at the weather now with Alex Deacon?
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Some places seeing some pleasant warm May sunshine today, but staying fairly cloudy in the south, and in eastern areas a chilly breeze off the North Sea. Had some big thunderstorms through the night across the south. Still a few heavy downpours here and there this morning. Parts of southern England, the Midlands and South Wales in particular. The rain will ease a little bit through the day, but staying fairly dull and damp across the southwest. Some brighter skies for East Anglia, Northern England, Northern Ireland and a good chunk of Scotland. Western Scotland in particular, 21, maybe 22 degrees, but much cooler on these eastern coasts with that breeze coming in from the sea, and cooler with the cloud and the showery rain across the southwestern quarter. That rain will continue well into this evening as well. And then later in the night, we need to look at further pulses of heavy rain, potentially further thunderstorms coming into parts of East Anglia. Further north, it generally stays dry. There'll be some clearer spells, but quite a bit of cloud. That'll keep the temperatures up 9 to 11 Celsius. On to tomorrow, and it's a similar story. We're going to start pretty grey over the Midlands and Wales with some outbreaks of rain, but heavier rain coming into parts of eastern England, so a different feel across northeast England in particular. Again, the potential for 1 or 2 thunderstorms. Brighter day in southwest England. Again, chilly on some of these North Sea coasts with temperatures really struggling under the cloud. But yet again, if you like warm sunshine, western Scotland will be the place to be.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, summer is just around the corner and we want to make it sizzle for you with an incredible £20,000 in cash up for grabs in the latest Great British Giveaway.
It's our biggest cash prize to date and it could all be yours. Here's how.
We've blown the budget by giving you the chance to win a totally terrific £20,000 in tax-free cash to make your summer spectacular. You could use that cash to splash out on a holiday, make the garden glam, buy a new car, or just save it for a rainy day. Whatever you'd spend £20,000 on, make sure you don't miss the chance to make it yours. For a chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yeah, best of luck to you. Still to come, well, it's a big London derby tonight. Chelsea versus Spurs. We'll talk to Paul Coyte in just a moment.
GB News is Britain's election channel. And from tonight,
The people decide.
as the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections, we'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
And we'll pick up at breakfast
with the very best guests and analysis.
And on the weekend, the results won't stop, and neither will we.
We'll explore what it all means for you as we look ahead to the general election.
Continuing coverage live from tonight at midnight on GB News. I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Dubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to breakfast. Should we look at the sport? Paul is with us. Morning.
Good morning. Dortmund 1, Paris Saint-Germain.
Nil.
Nil is right.
Excellent.
In the Champions League, first leg, semi-final, 2-2 the day before between Bayern Munich and Real Madrid. Dortmund then 1-0 up against Paris Saint-Germain, and then the return leg is going to be next week. And the talk is Jadon Sancho.
He's on fire, isn't he?
He is on fire. I mean, he's not actually on fire. He is, but the way he's playing. I mean, he's unbelievable. He's a really good player, and he was fantastic at Dortmund. Young English player, of course, and then went to Manchester United. Huge transfer fee, and it didn't work out. And if him and the manager don't get on, which is what happened with Erik ten Hag, he was frozen out of the team. So sent back to Dortmund on loan, which is where he feels comfortable, and now things are working out very well for him. So Kylian Mbappe playing for PSG, it's like 4 or 5 out of 10. He was not the guy yesterday.
He's meant to be the best in the world.
Exactly. Whereas Jadon Sancho looked like he was the world beater. It's like it's the old thing.
Impressive.
World beater to panel beater. It's that thing.
Yes.
You know, but nothing against panel beaters. But anyway, but it's always about the next leg. First, you know, it's always the first when you get 2 leg games like that. First leg is okay, but it's the second leg. That's when it gets very, very exciting. So we'll find out who's going to be in the Champions League final.
Now, how are you feeling about tonight?
I'm not sure, Ellie, to be honest with you. Spurs
You're a bit
away
nervous,
at Chelsea. Yeah, because Spurs have got a very bad record against Chelsea. Chelsea have been very hit and miss as well. It's whether they're coming into form too. And it's Mauricio Pochettino, of course, who was Spurs manager for 6 years and then so far 1 year at Chelsea. So we're not sure whether he's going to stick around. He obviously wants success and wants to stay, but I know that he's nervous about the fact he's just not going to get backed and he's not going to get the time he needs because that's what people need and that's what managers need these days. But in football, I don't like to, coin a phrase, but there's no such thing as having time. There's no such thing.
I haven't seen you since your Arsenal clash.
No.
It wasn't good.
Didn't go well.
No, it wasn't good. No. It was a tricky game to be involved in. It was a tricky game to be at. And just as I got closure from it, you have to bring it up again.
This one spins round, which you're a bit worried about as well. But it's all going to be fine.
Yes, everything. Anyway, Aston Villa are playing in Olympiacos tonight. That's in the Conference League, Europa Conference League. So they're the only British team still left in Europe. Semi-final against Olympiacos. It was 42 years ago, I think it was, that Aston Villa last won a European trophy with the European Cup. So anyway, good luck to them.
Might be their time.
Olympiacos of Crete. Let's hope so.
Now, I know something we like to do almost every day.
Yes.
Is baseball.
You know what? I did a bit of baseball yesterday. Funny you should say.
You?
Yeah, I did. I actually did. Good, because we were talking about baseball uniforms yesterday and the fact that baseball uniforms are ripping. So, baseball... I've got another bit of baseball. Do you remember, I think it was a few months ago, we did the Miami Open, and do you remember there were the bees? There was a swarm of bees.
Yeah.
Well, it's happened in Arizona. We've got a swarm of bees, and it was the Arizona Diamondbacks were playing the LA Dodgers at Chase Field in Phoenix. Hopefully, we'll be able to see this. And then all these bees, and if we don't have this, I'll have to demonstrate the whole thing.
Yeah, go on.
I'm going to feel like Marcel Marceau. It's like this. And then the bees descended on the net, which was above home plate. And home plate is where the batter will be facing the pitcher. So obviously you can't have bees there in a swarm of bees. So the bees swarm around, guy comes in, they think, well, we can't play. What are we going to do? What do? You call a beekeeper, don't you?
Yeah, you would think.
How did they get rid of him, Ellie? Oh, we've got it. Let's have a look.
Here we go. There he is. Look, I think he's over-egging it, quite frankly.
Oh, he's loving it.
He's over-egging it.
Yeah.
There we are. That's his job, for crying out loud. So anyway, there we are. There's all the bees. They're just above home plate. His name is Matt Hilton. What a hero he is. But,
he's lapping that up.
I mean, he'd be a hero if he didn't have that hat on. Oh, look at this.
Oh,
for goodness sake,
come on.
Matt, who do you think you are?
Oh, that's too much.
I know, I wasn't happy about that. So anyway, and you know what they did? They actually played Holding Out for a Hero by Bonnie Tyler. As he comes and does his job. That's what he does for a living. Yeah. Holding the ball. Anyway, typical.
That's his 5 minutes of fame.
5 minutes of fame. Give it to him, honestly.
I mean, good on him.
Do you want to do some birthdays? We've got time for a couple of birthdays?
We love this game.
Right, sporting birthdays. First one, who is this? How old are they? We do have one for you. Who on earth could it be? It's not me. It's not me.
Oh,
no, it's David. Well, you know who that is.
It's David Beckham. He's 49.
Yes, I would say 49.
That was really quick.
I
do you
know?
know?
He's a year younger than Victoria Beckham. That's the only reason I know.
Correct. 49
Ding,
today,
ding,
David
ding,
Beckham.
ding, ding.
Should we go again? Do you want to go again?
Yeah.
OK, next one. Snooker hero. There he is, Jimmy White.
Jimmy White.
The greatest player probably never to win the World Championship. Many time the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Is that a modern picture?
Yes.
I'm not
I'll tell you what, if
liking
it's
the
not.
hair.
Well, yes, it's a piece of work, that is.
It's very Manchester.
It's very, well, it wasn't with him for most of his life, so anyway, there he is.
Oh.
I'm going to
how old do you
say
reckon Jimmy White?
64.
64 for Jimmy White.
I'm going 58.
58. If you sort of went pretty much in the middle.
61.
62.
Oh, yeah.
62. Nice, though.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Good guess.
We guessed that well.
Yeah.
Thank
Good
you.
game, good game.
Good game.
Yeah.
Say it.
Say it.
Well, I've got some more for you later if you want.
all right.
I thought you'd just go with the 2.
Oh, yeah.
It was just that David Beckham was done so quickly, it was all over. I thought it'd take at least 5 minutes to get that one.
Well, I was going to say 49 or 48. I wasn't sure which.
What, for David Beckham?
Yeah, because I knew he was, never mind posh, I knew he was 12 months or so younger than me.
And Victoria, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Stephen Dixon is more important.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
In our
I
world.
did meet David Beckham once when they were doing, rebuilding the Wembley Stadium.
Yeah.
And it was...
Why, what, were you working on the stadium?
I was working on the stadium. And they'd put all the sand down, they hadn't turfed it.
Right.
And then the whole England squad came.
Right.
To have a look round.
And did you go
So I got to meet Beckham. And I did that, it was a long time ago now, but I was like... You're a really nice fella. He was quite wrinkly, though. I was surprised at how lined he was. Yeah, close up,
And
he was really lined.
He's got no lines now.
And none now. Funny. But even with the lines, I mean, he looked good. I mean, he looks the part. Michael Owen was there and other people.
But I think everybody I've known that's known David, never heard a bad word against him.
No.
Very nice man.
No, it does seem to be. It just came across, really, considering what a massive superstar he is, you could be a complete... pain in the rump, couldn't you? But he wasn't.
It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. Yeah. You get those people, they get certain stars, though. They get it's the way it works in music, film, sport, anything. At the start, always very nice. Then get that first taste of it, get a bit big for the boots, then get out of the other side, and then generally the real big ones are always the nice ones.
Yeah.
Like yourself, Stephen.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He does seem really down-to-earth, though, David Beckham, and I like the fact he queued. Remember when the Queen was lying in state and he was in the queue for about 12 hours or something? I thought that was really class.
Do you think that was a plan?
No, I don't. I
You
don't
don't?
like
You
that.
think
No,
that
I
was
think
just
that's
David?
genuine. He loved the late Queen. He's a real royalist, isn't he?
Yeah.
So a lot of time, David
No
Beckham.
pictures were ever taken of him and nobody knew that he was in there.
I'll give over.
No, I'm not with you, David.
Point. No.
No, apparently people in the queue, though, didn't realise it was him. He didn't make a fuss about it.
That's right. But he's PR people around the outside.
Yeah, they were shouting.
No, that's it. No, I'm with you. No, I think, David, I agree. I know.
Very
Happy
cynical.
birthday, David. I didn't mean.
Yes, happy birthday. It doesn't mean anything he says. Don't listen to him.
No.
Do stay with us because Charlie Rowley and Lucy Beresford are going to be going through the papers with us very soon.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Buses replaced trains between Scunthorpe and Doncaster after a landslip. In Conway, the A55 North Wales Expressway is closed westbound from junction 16A at Doiga-Vulky to 15A at Penmaenmawr after an accident. In Flintshire, the A541 remains closed each way along Denby Road in Mould after a fire on Tuesday afternoon. On the M1 in London, the inside lanes closed southbound with an accident by the London Gateway services between junctions 4 and 2 near Edgware, causing roughly 2 miles of queues. Train services in London are suspended between Beckenham Junction and London Bridge because of a signalling problem. On the M25 in Kent, there's a lane closed each way again today for repairs near junction 5 for the M26. There are queues from junction 4 at Orpington back along the M26 towards there. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people.
To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, you might have been woken up to thunderstorms as yellow weather warnings remain in place across large parts of southern England today. That came after the hottest day of the year so far.
Yeah, the Met Office says it could bring difficult driving conditions and some flooding.
Well, earlier we spoke to weather journalist Nathan Rao.
It was quite scary. I was scared as well this morning when I left.
Oh, well, there you go. It's not just us.
No, and if you're waking up this morning, you are going to be waking to some bangs and clatters because, yes, we have thunderstorms across the south of the country. If you take sort of South Wales and the south of the Midlands all the way downwards, the southeast, the southwest, the West Country, Wales, Kent, Sussex, Essex, all of that area is under a yellow Met Office warning for thunderstorms this morning. The southeast up until 10 a.m. and the southwest up until 8 a.m. And there are some pretty lively eruptions going on. I was looking at the lightning trackers this morning. Around 540 lightning strikes an hour when I was heading in this morning. So it's going to be a very explosive morning up until about 10 o'clock as those thunderstorms roll in from Normandy in France on an area of low pressure.
And so they're going to last till about 10. How far up the country will it go?
That goes up until the South Midlands. So if you take the Midlands and goes downwards, that is the risk area, southeast England, southwest England. The thing with thunderstorms is they're very difficult to pinpoint where exactly they're going to happen. So the Met Office warning this morning is a risk area. That doesn't mean that everywhere within that area is going to get them. As I said, these are not homegrown thunderstorms. If you think during the summer months when we get very hot weather, we get an eruption of thunderstorms as hot air rises. These thunderstorms are being brought in from the continent where there is a big area of low pressure and a warm front which is coming into the country. If you've noticed over the last couple of days it's got very warm. That's what's bringing in the thunderstorms.
Well, it's a very different picture, isn't it, across the country?
Oh, yeah. Now, here you go. Sasha says, forecast may be bad where you are, but in Cheshire we've got wall-to-wall sunshine and no rain today.
Absolutely. And to the north, if you are north of the area I've just mentioned, you're going to be wondering, what on earth are they talking about? Because they're going to get much drier, calmer, bright weather.
It's always better in the north.
It is. And the northwest Scotland going through the next couple of days, they're going to get the sunshine as this area of unsettled weather moves across the rest of the country. But saying that, we were talking a couple of days ago when I was in about how it was freezing cold and it was going to get warmer. It is now going to get much warmer. And if you've noticed over the last couple of days, it's been feeling muggy warm. That is warmth coming in from the continent and bringing instability.
I wondered about that because it was muggy. But it's that muggy water, because often when it's muggy, you get thunderstorms afterwards.
There are two real types of triggers for thunderstorms. In the summer, we get thunderstorms because the sun is beating on the ground and that causes air to rise, and rising warm air is always going to cause instability. Or we can get what we're getting now, and this is a warm front coming in from the continent, a big area of low pressure over the Mediterranean. A warm front is really another word for an area of warm air coming into the country. And when you get warm air coming into a country which has had cold air over it, that warm air rises, and whenever you get rising warm air, you get eruptions, and that's what we're getting. So these are sort of like thunderstorms and instability coming in from the continent. Up until around 10 a.m. this morning, the worst of it should be over. As I said, in the south, if you're further north, you can ignore everything we're saying because you won't be getting any of it. But up until 10 a.m. and then going forward, there might be some more eruptions this evening because we're in an instability at the moment. But getting better. It is getting better.
And we could see up to 22 degrees this week.
Yes, yes, we could. And that is, again, because of this low pressure to the south bringing in warm air. And towards the end of the week, we're going to get higher pressure. Now, when we're at this time of the year, higher pressure, whenever you hear forecasters talking about higher pressure in summer, that means clearer skies and sunshine. The warm weather we're getting at the moment, as you will have noticed, and as I mentioned, is a muggy, cloudy sort of warm weather. We're going into higher pressure, which could be sunnier. But as a point of interest, I wanted to ask you both if you have enjoyed the warmest April since 2020.
No, it's very wet. Yeah, we weren't sure what to make of that, were we?
No, didn't feel very warm, but apparently was.
Based on averages.
So there you go. Oh, do you know what? I had something...
It's because they had a view ready on that, didn't you?
I had a view and I've lost it.
Yeah.
Never mind, it doesn't matter because we're
Stay tuned and we'll share it with you.
Yeah, we're going to take you through the papers with... who have we got?
Charlie Rowley and Lucy Beresford.
Thank you. Oh, dear.
Oh, dear.
I know.
Get a coffee down, yeah.
GB News is Britain's election channel. And from tonight...
The people decide.
As the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections, we'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
And we'll pick up at breakfast
with the very best guests and analysis.
And on the weekend, the results won't stop, and neither will we.
We'll explore what it all means for you as we look ahead to the general election.
Continuing coverage live from tonight at midnight on GB News.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, weekdays from 9 p.m.
And I did want to give you a platform, but I also want to give you an opportunity to apologise to anyone that you might hurt, and also give a message now to people who might want to copy some of the things that you've done, because people have copied it. So is there anything you'd like to say about that?
So the first thing you addressed, yeah, I do want to say sorry because I did say sorry in the BBC interview, and that's the only thing they put out as a clip. So I don't know why they tried to do that, but I'll say it again on GB News here. I apologise to all the victims in the past that I've may have caused distress to, may have harassed, may have mentally tormented in any type of way. I apologise to them because I didn't mean to do that, and I was just having fun at the moment, but I didn't realise that it would have negative repercussions and negative effects on their psychological, way of thinking. So I apologise for that. And also, the one thing I have to say to the young people is social media isn't real. What I've portrayed to the guys on the internet is that I'm this cool, I don't give a toss about anything. But me as a person, I really do care. And for people I don't really read comments on the internet, because if I was to do that, I would probably go into a depressive state. All I can say to you guys is believe in yourself, and there's bigger things you can do out there than just being an absolute menace on the internet or being antisocial. If you have ambitions, I like to read, I like music. I want to go deeper into my passion so I understand me as a person and not what other people think I am.
You are an articulate young man. You are obviously intelligent as well when you talk like this. And I really hope for your sake and for the sake of a lot of people who did take a negative influence from what you did initially, that you really don't go back down that route.
I have a child as well, and I have to be there, not just for me, but for my child, for my child's mother, for my mother. I have to be there for a lot of people. It's not just me. So I need to put in the work.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Let's see what's in the papers then with Charlie Rowley and Lucy Beresford. We're looking at some slightly lighter stuff this time around. Lucy, in the Mail, Baby Reindeer. It's this Netflix show.
Netflix, so bingeable that people are watching it straight through, maybe twice. It's about a stand-up comedian who was stalked. It happened in real life. And so what people are now doing is they're watching the show, trying to work out what's truth and what's fiction.
Oh.
Many internet sleuths reckon they've worked out who the stalker is. Her name in the show is Martha. They reckon they've identified the real Martha. The real Martha is saying it's not me, and I'm going to give an interview to the Daily Mail to prove that it's not me. And then everyone is trying to work out who is the victim here, because in some sense the lead character, who's played by the person who wrote the show, Richard Gadd, he is saying, actually, maybe I did encourage her. Maybe I kind of could have nipped it in the bud really early on. How many relationships have you been in where you could say that? It all spiralled out of control, but I let it go on for too long.
That's what was so interesting, Lucy, when I was watching Baby Reindeer, is he, I don't want to say encouraged it, because it's almost like victim blaming, isn't it? But it's like he could have stopped it, but there was a part of it. I think he was very empathetic towards his stalker.
Correct.
And he felt very sorry for her, and allowed it maybe to go on longer than it should have done.
And I think that just highlights, and I think the reason why this has been so successful and so relatable is because so many people have been in relationships where it hasn't been perfect, but they haven't walked away.
Yeah.
Because some needs are still being met.
Oh,
it is very good, I do recommend.
We watched the first, I think, 45 seconds of it, and then it was like, no, not for us.
It's very good.
off.
It's just very different. I haven't watched anything like it before. It's very good.
Well, I'll tune in.
You should.
Tune in, you have to
Thank
give
you,
it
Charlie,
a
for that input.
Charlie, I know this is more your cup of tea, going to watch the orchestra in the Times, but you can get your phone out and record it now for posterity.
Apparently so, and there is a conversation to be had about etiquette, particularly at the theatres, but particularly what this classical musical movement is trying to do. It was encouraging people actually to go and film it, because, you know, what people take on their phones now ends up on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok and all the rest of it.
It's free advertising.
Free publicity.
It's free advertising, it's free publicity, but there's a whole debate around whether actually, because some of it's still... the licence doesn't allow you to then sort of broadcast some of the music, but it's about trying to get younger audiences into particularly orchestras and classical music. So if you go to a Taylor Swift concert, as I'm sure you will both at some stage, no doubt.
I've
been there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's the answer to that.
Well, I'll clear my diary. But, you know, people no end will be sort of filming, and they'll be singing along, and they'll be partying, and it'd be a gig. And they're trying to say that actually, if you go just to listen to the music, actually, it can be more of a gig feel. But, of course, you would never get your phone out at the theatre if you're going to see a play or a musical or anything like that.
Well, you say that. I've seen the last couple of musicals I've been to see in the West End, people are getting their phones out at the end, which I've never seen before. But they are doing that, kind of the standing ovations.
So they allow you, I think, now, yes, when it's the sort of the curtain call to sort of, you know, and the finale to sort of just film, because then again that just builds publicity and people tweet it and retweet it and all the rest of it. But I think, you know, I can't stand, you know, someone behind me humming along, singing. You wondered where that was going for a second, didn't you? I can't stand somebody, you know, behind me sort of humming along or singing along completely out of tune to Mamma Mia or to, you know,
Pop rock. Mamma Mia. You love to sing along.
No, we're out of time. Thankfully, it's weather.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Some places seeing some pleasant warm May sunshine today, but staying fairly cloudy in the south, and in eastern areas a chilly breeze off the North Sea. Had some big thunderstorms through the night across the south. Still a few heavy downpours here and there this morning. Parts of southern England, the Midlands and South Wales in particular. The rain will ease a little bit through the day, but staying fairly dull and damp across the southwest. Some brighter skies for East Anglia, Northern England, Northern Ireland and a good chunk of Scotland. Western Scotland in particular, 21, maybe 22 degrees, but much cooler on these eastern coasts with that breeze coming in from the sea, and cooler with the cloud and the showery rain across the southwestern quarter. That rain will continue well into this evening as well. And then later in the night, we need to look at further pulses of heavy rain, potentially further thunderstorms coming into parts of East Anglia. Further north, it generally stays dry. There'll be some clearer spells, but quite a bit of cloud. That'll keep the temperatures up 9 to 11 Celsius. On to tomorrow, and it's a similar story. We're going to start pretty grey over the Midlands and Wales with some outbreaks of rain, but heavier rain coming into parts of eastern England, so a different feel across northeast England in particular. Again, the potential for 1 or 2 thunderstorms. Brighter day in southwest England. Again, chilly on some of these North Sea coasts with temperatures really struggling under the cloud, but yet again, if you like warm sunshine, western Scotland will be the place to be.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Buses replaced trains between Scunthorpe and Doncaster after a landslip. In Conway, the A55 North Wales Expressway is closed westbound from junction 16 at Doiga to 15A at Penmaenmawr for an investigation. In Flintshire, the A541 remains closed in both directions along Denby Road in Mould after a fire on Tuesday afternoon. On the M6 in Warwickshire, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed southbound. Someone's broken down between junctions 3 and 2 from Coventry to the M69. It's slow towards and past there. Train services in London aren't running between Beckenham Junction and London Bridge because of a signalling problem. On the M25 in Kent, there's a lane closed each way for emergency repairs again today near Junction 5 for the M26, with queues from Junction 4 at Orpington and queues on the M26 towards there. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
You really could be our next big winner with an incredible £20,000 in tax-free cash to play with this summer. What would you spend that on? Well, whilst you're thinking about it, listen to some of our previous winners getting that winning phone call from us.
You're the winner of the Great British Giveaway.
I'm slipping neck. Oh dear.
Oh my God, are you joking?
You're joking. Really? Seriously, it's not a wine. What is it?
Oh my God, this is amazing. Thank you.
The next winning call could be answered by you. For a chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News with Dubes & Co from 6, followed by Farage at 7. At 8, Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg addresses the state of the nation. And at 9, join Patrick Christie's Tonight, followed by Headliners at 11. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning to you. It's 8 o'clock on Thursday, the 2nd of May. Today, Ireland's government says no police will be sent to the border after an increase in asylum seekers crossing following the passing of the Rwanda bill.
The Scottish Government breathes a sigh of relief as they survive a vote of no confidence, winning it by 70 votes to 58.
Donald Trump's hush money trial continues today after he was held in contempt of court, fined more than £7,000 and threatened with jail if he continues to break gag orders.
Princess Charlotte, who's third in line to the throne, celebrates her 9th birthday today. Happy birthday, Princess Charlotte.
Third in line, heck. Now, you might have been woken up through the night with thunderstorms. Weather warnings are extended by the Met Office across a large part of southern England. That came after the hottest day of the year so far.
After some big thunderstorms last night, still a few showers across the south today, but for many, there'll be some pleasant warm spring sunshine, especially so in western Scotland. Could last into tomorrow as well. Join me later for a full forecast.
And in the sport, Jadon Sancho may have been a bit rubbish when he was at Manchester United, but he's flying again as Dortmund beat Paris Saint-Germain in the first leg of the Champions League semi-final last night. Rocket Ronnie O'Sullivan is knocked out of the World Snooker Championships. And anything else? We got Tiger Woods and his new golf wear.
Morning to you. I'm Stephen Dixon. I'm losing my voice.
I'm just speechless after that performance. And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
John Andrews has said, I'm surprised Tom Harwood isn't doing the show this morning. No, he's not.
He's been doing everyone else's, he goes on to say.
Yeah.
He has been busy.
But he's doing an all-nighter tonight. So
He is, but can I just tell you something about Tom Harwood? He absolutely loves it. He loves it. He'll be delighted to be here tonight, won't he?
Yes.
He'll be very excited.
He will. It'll be great. It'll be a great show to watch all that.
Yeah, and even at 6 a.m. when we take over tomorrow morning, he'll be still buzzing.
Oh, on Baby Reindeer, Jenny says, I did the same with that. Because I couldn't watch it after more than about a minute. Anyway, Jenny says she's going to try it again.
You have to stick with it. So it's a bit strange because the main character narrates the whole thing. But if you get into it, it's very, very good. And I've never seen anything like it before. It's about a man being stalked by a woman. I've never seen a drama series like that before.
Oh, wow.
So I do recommend. You'll binge it. It won't take you very long.
No, well, if you don't want to binge that, you may want to binge our coverage tonight. Here's Tom.
GB News is Britain's election channel. And from tonight,
the people decide.
As the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections, we'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
And we'll pick up at breakfast
with the very best guests and analysis.
And on the weekend, the results won't stop, and neither will we.
We'll explore what it all means for you as we look ahead to the general election.
Continuing coverage live from tonight at midnight on GB News.
I didn't realise you were so pint-sized.
Well, I'm not,
You look
am I?
tiny in that.
Yes,
or am I 6'8"?
I think you are. Very, very tall. A very tall man. But that does amuse us, doesn't it? Because we filmed that election promo. It took us about an hour, I'd say.
It took us about an hour, because we filmed the whole thing, and I thought this should just all be us.
We thought it would just be us. And then we get about 5 seconds. And I'm tucked into your armpit down here.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what happened there. But anyway, thank you.
I think I may launch a formal complaint.
Well, I always say to the promo team, I was like, you always do me dirty.
Yeah.
You always put me here.
Yeah.
But anyway.
They do. Never mind.
Seems to be continuing. But anyway, Tom Harwood tonight, isn't it, from midnight?
Yeah, should be great. Should be great. Oh, excuse me. I don't know what's happened
you've got
to my
a frog
voice.
in your throat. We need another tea in here,
I'm very
please,
dry,
Connor.
yes, more tea.
That would be nice, yes.
Now, the Scottish Government has survived a confidence vote in the Scottish Parliament.
Yes, Scottish Labour tabled the motion after the collapse of the power-sharing deal between the SNP and the Scottish Greens.
It was defeated by 58 votes to 70. So, actually, pretty comfortable.
Well, joining us now from Grassmarket in Edinburgh is our Scotland reporter, Tony Maguire. Good to see you, Tony. Tell us what happened yesterday.
Good morning. Good to catch up with both of you again. Well, yesterday was certainly an eventful day in Scottish Parliament. We saw Anas Sarwar, leader of the Scottish Labour Party. He brought his motion of no confidence against the Scottish Government just 2 days, actually, after the resignation of First Minister Humza Yousaf. And all while we wait on tenterhooks for the first signs of candidates in order to replace him. Now, as you said, that vote was defeated 70 to 58, and it looks very much like the Green Party, which of course was part of that Green Butte House agreement which Humza Yousaf torpedoed late last week. Well, they voted with the government. However, we know that Ash Regan, Scotland's only Alba MSP, well, she voted to have no confidence in the government, which certainly was a turn up for the books if you were following events, over the weekend as to who would support the government or not. But as I kind of mentioned yesterday, it all feels somewhat of a distraction while we wait for news of Humza Yousaf's potential replacements. And I've got good news for you both this morning. It looks like we're actually going to get the first announcement this morning. John Swinney, obviously he was Nicola Sturgeon's deputy First Minister. Well, just in one of the buildings behind me here in Grassmarket in Edinburgh, he's going to be having an event at around 10:30 this morning, and we are likely, the press think, up here to hear him make his pitch to replace Humza Yousaf. Now, he would indefinitely be what the party would describe as a safe pair of hands. He has been with the Scottish Nationalists for decades by this point, and certainly as they go through this tumultuous period, not least with a minority government as of the Thursday last week and the ending of that Butte House agreement, it seems like even almost the entire of Humza Yousaf's cabinet has lined up behind John Swinney. And of course, on the other side, we're also expected to see Kate Forbes show her hand later on today. She is once again, like clockwork, unfortunately, come under fire for her religious views. But interestingly this time, a lot of people are pointing out that John Swinney is also a man of faith. So will we see a cleaner, more relaxed campaign, or will we see a campaign at all? Will John Swinney be coronated? Interesting to see how this day progresses here in Edinburgh.
OK, Tony, thank you. Let's talk to political commentator and former member of the SNP, Stuart Crawford. Stuart, good to see you this morning.
Morning.
It does feel a little bit like the SNP is imploding, even if they do get a new leader at the helm pretty quickly.
Yes, indeed. I think the party's fortunes have been in decline for a couple of years now, with all the scandals over missing funds and so on and so forth. And my impression is that the party will do anything to stay in power, and is, if you like, scared of going to the electorate and asking in a Scottish election and asking for confirmation that they should be the party in power. A friend of mine said yesterday, when appeared that Swinney was going to announce his running for First Minister, which I think is going to happen in about 2.5 hours, that he was yesterday's man for yesterday's party, which I thought was a bit cruel, but maybe accurate. And we have to remember that Swinney has been First Minister before, back in the sort of turn of the century, where I, in fact, was a SNP member and parliamentary candidate on 2 occasions, both of which I withdrew from. And there were 3 elections in his last tenure. One general election in 2001, Scottish elections in 2003, and the European election in 2004, in all of which the SNP lost seats. So I don't have any great enthusiasm for him as a leader. And I think what we're looking at is, if he becomes a leader, a period of managed decline.
OK, so you don't have a lot of confidence in John Swinney. What about somebody like Kate Forbes or maybe somebody else? Who would you like to see as leader of the SNP?
Well, I think Kate Forbes is the obvious candidate for me anyway, because she's bright. She has a broad appeal, not just within the SNP, but across the wider electorate. But she has much opposition within her own party because of her small c conservative views and fundamentalist religious views, all of which at least she believes in some things, the way I look at it. But her time will come. She's only 34, maybe not this time, but sometime down the line, she'll be First Minister. But if I were to choose, she's head and shoulders above all the other members of her party intellectually, and she is the person that I would go for.
OK. Stuart, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, how it all plays out with the electorate is another question entirely.
Yes. Well,
so we shall wait and see.
And we could hear from John Swinney, as we just heard there, in the next 2 hours or so.
Now, there is a very special birthday today, isn't there?
There it certainly is, yes. Princess Charlotte celebrates her 9th birthday today. The Prince and Princess of Wales are expected to release a new image of their daughter on social media to mark the occasion, just like they did for Prince Louis's birthday last week.
Well, Charlotte's big day comes as the family navigate the Princess of Wales's cancer treatment. She's away from official duties, of course, at the moment.
Well, joining us now is former royal correspondent for The Sun newspaper, Charles Ray. Very good morning to you, Charles. Good to see you. And a lovely celebration for little Princess Charlotte.
Yeah, good morning, Ellie. Good morning, Stephen. Yes, the family will be celebrating this afternoon when she comes home from school with her brothers. Great day for her. 9 years old. Oh God, oh, to be 9 again. Wouldn't it be fantastic? I think Charlotte's going to have a nice day. As you quite rightly said, this comes as her mother is fighting cancer, but this is going to be, a great moment, bring some smiles to the family again.
I have to say, I know it's like really, really obvious, Charles, but until we said it this morning, I sort of hadn't realised she was third in line to the throne. I mean, it's remarkable. It's remarkable. We've got all these royals who've worked their whole lives and are really stepping up to the plate, but actually they're way behind the Wales's children when it comes to, who would head to the palace if necessary.
Well, it's a few years ago that they changed the rules where, that women could then actually take the proper place in the line of succession. And, of course, Charlotte was one of the first beneficiaries of that. And she, of course, is third in line to the throne. She's not only third in line to the throne, but she's quite a feisty little girl. And she, at times, does put her brothers, including George, who one day will be king, in their place. She tells them off when she needs to. She has been dubbed at nursery school, when she was at nursery school, as the warrior princess. She's all sweet and nice and everything else, but she can't tell them off if she wants to.
You can see, I think, the family genes coming through. I mean, I think she looks the picture of the late Queen Elizabeth. I think she's really got that look about her. And she does have that kind of no-nonsense that you just alluded to there, where she'd tell her brothers off on the balcony. Very like Princess Anne. She just gets on with things, doesn't she? She likes to get on with things, and she's very natural in her role.
She is, and I think she has got a few mannerisms of Princess Anne. You're quite right. She's definitely no nonsense. I mean, who can forget when she's sort of been ticking off George for apparently not paying attention at various events, and Louis too. But yeah, no, she's very natural. She's a lovely girl, and I'm looking forward to seeing the picture later on today that the Wales's release.
Yeah, it will be nice. It's interesting, of course, that they are releasing, as we saw with Louis, they're releasing them on social media rather than providing them to the news agencies, which is what traditionally they've done.
Yeah, the thing is, Stephen, that there was such a furore over that Mother's Day picture, and I think it was a mountain out of a molehill, and I think it was disgraceful, the attacks that were made on Catherine. William had taken the picture, and, okay, so Louis' sleeve was altered. Who cares? The actual essence of the point was that it was a lovely Mother's Day picture. And I don't blame them at all to release these pictures on social media. It'll just stop the idiots having to dissect, is one thread out of place or whatever else. Best of luck to them. I really do think it was appalling, the attacks on her.
No. Charles Ray, really good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed. And a very happy birthday to Princess Charlotte. I've got a lot of time for her. I think she's great.
Yeah, she's good. If she's got a bit of Princess Anne about her, then I hope she learns from Princess Anne about, her role moving forward.
You can't go too far wrong, can you?
She'll be the Princess Royal as well, won't she, Charlotte?
She will.
Could be right,
surely.
won't it? But yeah, learn from Auntie Anne.
Yeah, Princess Anne and the late Queen Elizabeth. I think she takes after both of them.
I love Princess Anne.
I know, we all do, don't we? But don't you think that she's got a look of them?
Yes, yeah, that
she is that side of the family,
through.
yeah.
She's
great.
She's a bonny little thing, isn't she?
Oh, she's beautiful, yeah.
But there you go. No,
she's so natural in her role as well. I think George looks a lot more nervous sometimes.
Does he?
I think so. Maybe I'm reading into it too much, but I just think George maybe looks a bit more nervous when he's in the crowd. She's very Very relaxed.
As long as they're happy little children.
That's the main thing.
That's all that matters.
Well, Louis certainly is, isn't he?
Oh, yeah,
does his own thing.
Suits himself. Don't blame him either. Do you know, I love talking to Charles Ray.
Do you?
He's one of my very, very favourites because he's a man who's been there, done it, and then just says it how it is.
Yeah, he knows his stuff, doesn't he?
People like that.
Yeah, he's lovely.
Smashing fella. Right, it's 18 minutes past 6.
No,
it's
60
not.
minutes past 8.
Why do I keep doing this?
It's because you need a cup of tea, darling. We'll get you one. Don't worry, it's fine. Do you want me to do
I know,
this?
but I'll do it. I do it every couple of weeks. Is this because I'm now in my 50s?
This is what happened. You've turned 50 and you can't read the time.
There was something on my computer this morning, and I've always been known as the techie one.
He is the
who
tech
sorts
wizard.
out the problems.
He's the tech wizard.
And there was something on my WhatsApp on the computer, and I said, "Why is he doing this?" And she had to come in and.
Me, of all people, had to try and fix it, and I did actually.
So I wonder, is this the beginning of the decline when it comes to tech? I mean, is it now video calls where my video isn't on? I don't know what button to press, you know, like your parents.
You're
do.
on mute. Yeah.
Is this it now?
Oh dear. It's not. I think you're being very harsh.
I think I've been overly critical of my parents over the years.
This is karma coming back to get you.
It is karma. Oh, heck.
But it is now almost 17 minutes past 8. There you go. Let's take a quick look at some other top stories coming in this morning.
Voters off to the polls today for key council and mayoral elections. Police and crime commissioners will also be chosen, and there's a by-election in Blackpool.
The 14-year-old stabbed to death in north-east London on Tuesday has been named as Daniel Anjurin. Marcus Arduini Monzo will appear in court charged with murder.
The UK's biggest indoor venue, Manchester's Co-op Live Arena, has postponed its opening event again. This time it was a US rapper, and his concert halted right at the very last minute because of technical issues, adding to the list of events that just haven't gone ahead.
A group of more than 10,000 black cab drivers is suing Uber after accusing it of breaching taxi booking rules in London between May 2012 and March of 2018. If successful, it could cost the cab giant more than £250 million. Right, should we have a look at the weather?
Oh, yes.
We know, because it's been a bit miserable out there if you're down south. Apparently it's beautiful if you're up north.
Someone, Melanie, I think, was having a breakfast outside in Stockport this morning.
Well, we're very jealous.
Southport.
Yeah. Do keep your views coming in if you're having a lovely day. We'd like to hear about that. If you're sat in the garden, we're very jealous. Alex Deacon has all the details now for you.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Some places seeing some pleasant warm May sunshine today, but staying fairly cloudy in the south, and in eastern areas a chilly breeze off the North Sea. Had some big thunderstorms through the night across the south. Still a few heavy downpours here and there this morning. Parts of southern England, the Midlands and South Wales in particular. The rain will ease a little bit through the day, but staying fairly dull and damp across the southwest. Some brighter skies for East Anglia, Northern England, Northern Ireland and a good chunk of Scotland. Western Scotland in particular, 21, maybe 22 degrees, but much cooler on these eastern coasts with that breeze coming in from the sea, and cooler with the cloud and the showery rain across the southwestern quarter. That rain will continue well into this evening as well. And then later in the night we need to look at further pulses of heavy rain, potentially further thunderstorms coming into parts of East Anglia. Further north it generally stays dry. There'll be some clearer spells, but quite a bit of cloud. That'll keep the temperatures up 9 to 11 Celsius. On to tomorrow, and it's a similar story. We're going to start pretty grey over the Midlands and Wales with some outbreaks of rain, but heavier rain coming into parts of eastern England, so a different feel across northeast England in particular. Again, the potential for 1 or 2 thunderstorms. Brighter day in southwest England. Again, chilly on some of these North Sea coasts with temperatures really struggling under the cloud, but yet again, if you like warm sunshine, western Scotland will be the place to be.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, summer is just around the corner and we want to make it sizzle for you.
Let's say that again.
Summer is just around the corner.
The sizzle bit.
Want to make it sizzle?
Make the sizzle.
Zizzle for you. Sizzle for you. I don't mind these scripts, so I just have to read them. With an incredible £20,000 up for grabs. You're throwing me off kilter now. £20,000 up for grabs in cash is the latest Great British giveaway.
Yes, and it is our biggest cash prize to date, and it could be yours. Here's how.
We've blown the budget by giving you the chance to win a totally terrific £20,000 in tax-free cash to make your summer spectacular. You could use that cash to splash out on a holiday, make the garden glam, buy a new car, or just save it for a rainy day. Whatever you'd spend £20,000 on, make sure you don't miss the chance to make it yours. For a chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
We've been talking about getting older because Stephen's a bit concerned. That he's losing his marbles. Karen B says, Stephen, can I just say I'm 55 now, and since turning 50, I have every ache and pain going. I go to the gym, I walk, I eat well, and I work full time, but I do get brain fog. Sorry to tell you.
Oh dear.
It's not looking good.
Oh dear. Interestingly, someone who's certainly of a certain age, Colin Free says, all the right numbers, Stephen, just not necessarily in the right order,
yes.
Which is a Morecambe and Wise sketch.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
there you
if
go.
You're old enough to remember. And Deborah Bett says, you need a holiday, Stephen, somewhere nice, not Venice.
Oh, you didn't love that? No, he was moaning about Venice. You can't please him.
And I got in real trouble over that.
Did you?
Because I saw my friend Mary at church yesterday, who's just come back from her golden wedding anniversary, and they went on the fancy train, what's it called, the Orient Express and all that, to Venice. And she said, but I know you don't like Venice, do you?
No,
Because I heard you moaning
he
about
doesn't
it.
like it. He said it was done in an afternoon, nothing to see there.
She had a lovely time with her husband.
Yeah, I think most people do when they go to Venice, but not you for some reason.
Lovely as
Mary. Another one from, let me find it, David, who says, sorry, Stephen, yes, turn 50 and forget everything.
Oh,
So it's not looking good.
No,
Sorry.
It's not, is it?
Writing's on the wall, or on the GB views.
I've got a slightly arthritic finger.
He does, that's true.
Do you know, I booked it into the doctors just to get it confirmed that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because, you know... And they haven't seen it, but they've booked me in for physiotherapy.
Oh. So what did you have to do to them? Was it a video call?
I haven't had the appointment yet. I'd literally just emailed them to say, can I have an appointment? You've got to say what it's about.
Yeah.
And they booked me in for physiotherapy without seeing a doctor. So what are they going to do at the physio? They're going to do this
What do you do? Just that, yeah. Well, it's good that you can do that. That's a good start.
I just want to know what it is. Therefore, I can take the right painkillers.
I'm going to say...
It's really sore on the joint.
I'm going to say arthritis.
I think it's osteoarthritis, which is perfectly normal.
Well, it shouldn't hurt that much.
It
That's
does.
very bad.
It does hurt.
Oh, sorry. Sorry to hurt your finger.
Thanks. Right.
Get yourself seen.
Sport coming up next with Paul, who won't hurt my finger.
Sorry.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Now, American actress Melissa McCarthy has spoken out in defence of her best friend Meghan Markle, calling her an inspiring woman suffering hate for getting on with her life. And the Duchess of Sussex has faced widespread criticism after she sent 50 friends and influencers gift-wrapped jam jars to celebrate the launch of the first products of a new brand, American Riviera Orchard. Well, let's speak now to a great friend of the show, the former BBC Royal correspondent and a man who likes his jam, Michael Cole. Michael, the absurdity continues. What's the latest?
Yeah, good afternoon, Martin. Yeah, the plot thickens even as the jam sets. This has become a major story. Even the great Financial Times took an interest at the weekend, helpfully pointing out that you can get a jar of Dutchy organic strawberry jam for £2.80 at a well-known supermarket. Now, Dutchy Organic, the proprietor of that, of course, is His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, Prince William, the older brother of Prince Harry. And here we see it, American Riviera Orchard Montecito jam. We're getting here, this is getting very serious. And of course, her mates, she's got some interesting friends. Melissa McCarthy, who is an actress in something I've never heard of. But anyway, she says sticking up for good old Meghan, and Meghan's a woman of her own. And she, there we are, seeing Miss McCarthy. But other friends of the great Meghan have taken a contrary view and think that going down this route of selling jam is not going to get her anywhere in life.
GB News is Britain's election channel. And from tonight,
the people decide.
As the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections, we'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
And we'll pick up at breakfast
with the very best guests and analysis.
And on the weekend, the results won't stop, and neither will we.
We'll explore what it all means for you as we look ahead to the general election.
Continuing coverage live from tonight at midnight on GB News. GB News is Britain's election channel. And from tonight,
the people decide.
As the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections, we'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
And we'll pick up at breakfast
with the very best guests and analysis.
And on the weekend, the results won't stop, and neither will we.
We'll explore what it all means for you as we look ahead to the general election.
Continuing coverage live from tonight at midnight on GB News.
Morning, it's sports time. Paul Coit is with us.
I'm a little worried about Stephen and sports because I'm thinking, is that your darts finger, that one?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so like that. So that's going to affect you there.
So my darts has gone.
What about your bridge hand when you're playing snooker? So when you've put the...
Oh, no, bridge hand is all right.
You're OK because you're queuing with that one. But this one's OK.
But this is going to catch on the edge of the table. If I'm
I know, that's what you don't want to do, is catch the edge. And what about if you were doing finger bobs? You're going to have all trouble?
No.
You feel lifts a finger and a mouse is there. You won't be able to do that either.
Finger bob's career is over. As is me Punch and Judy. Just saying.
Ellie, any idea about finger bobs? Did that make any sense to you whatsoever?
No, absolutely none, no. That's
OK, OK, I'll tell you about that one. Should we talk about football?
Let's, please.
OK, let's move away from your finger to Dortmund, who beat Paris Saint-Germain yesterday.
PSG, as I like to call them.
PSG, yeah, exactly. The thing is, they're desperate to win the Champions League. Desperate to win the Champions League, more than anything else. And if they get beaten by Dortmund, you know, it's only the first leg of the semi-final, so Dortmund are one up. Jadon Sancho, of course, we know They're easy's in there, and Jadon Sancho, who was not good when he moved to Manchester United, he's gone back on loan to Dortmund, which is spiritual. Look, Kylian Mbappe there, not looking very happy, didn't play very well, but trust me, when it gets back to Paris, I think we'll see a performance from that man. But anyway, Jadon Sancho did very well. 1-0 to Dortmund going into the next leg, which is next week. That'll be next Tuesday.
All right.
Nice.
Chelsea Spurs.
Chelsea Spurs, yeah, let's talk about that.
How are you feeling about that?
I'm not as nervous as you are.
Right.
I feel like you're quite nervous.
In fact, you see the way I'm shaking when I think...
Well, I asked you before we came on air tonight. I said, how are you feeling about tonight? Because Arsenal Spurs did not go too well.
No, and I did ask you particularly, please do not bring up Arsenal Spurs again.
Sorry. And here we are.
And here we are. It's coming up again for the third. Well, Chelsea, it's a London derby, so... You know, it's Mauricio Pochettino, of course, who was Spurs manager for many years, now at Chelsea. people wondering whether he's going to last much longer, but managers need time. I don't know whether it is going to work out for him, but it would certainly carry a lot of favour with him for the Chelsea fans if he does manage to beat Spurs tonight. So anyway, that's 7:30. That game is tonight. Aston Villa playing Olympiacos. I knew that's what you were about to say, right? Yeah, in the Conference League, Europa Conference League.
Excellent. Now, I need to know, because I know you're a fashion guru.
Yes, I am.
Paul, Tiger Woods has launched a new clothing range.
Yeah, he has. We did mention this a little while ago, but now it's now all coming out. It's called Sunday Red. Any idea why?
No.
He wears red on Sundays.
Correct. Very good. It was because it would be the final round. He would always wear red. And now look, here we are. This is some of the stuff there, the gear that he's got.
Right.
The leather glove, 36. That's not bad.
That's not bad.
That's not bad. 36 quid for leather glove. The ball marker. The ball marker is. That's when you're on the green there and someone else is about to putt and your ball is in the way. You put your little tiger marker down. 40 quid for a ball marker.
That sounds a lot.
Seems a little expensive. What about the polo shirt?
That's extortionate.
Quid?
Yeah. That's extortionate.
And £40. Tiger says it's all about athletes being first and designing something for the athlete so that we can perform at a high level. Right, OK, yeah, whatever. Yeah. It's a shirt. It's a polo shirt. It's 140 quid. And also, when you see the design, which is the tiger and all the different stripes, each stripe is each major that he's won.
Right. Well,
that's the reason.
But he hasn't designed any of it, has he? They do all these celebs. Someone else does it and they just put their name on it.
The thing is, and Tiger Woods, do they need the money? I mean, does he really need the money? Is he doing it because... Then you'll see the interviews and it's like, well, I'm doing this to improve the lives of the athletes so they can have... But it's like, come on.
Or maybe he's planning for retirement.
Do you think so?
Ranges.
He's short of a few $100 million, probably, you know?
He's down to
I don't know. But
money
anyway,
makes money.
Tiger Red. And the thing is, I've been out on the golf course and you get some people, they wear that, they put whole gear on, you know, they've got the matching bag, they're dressed exactly like Tiger Woods.
Really?
And then you say, oh, yeah, you know, and it's so many different sports. And there's only one sport that I know of where you get people don't actually wear, and that is cyclists. And, you know, because you can't wear a yellow jersey, I was told. Can you imagine wearing it if you're out cycling? You know, you see cyclists and they've got everything and they look like...
No, you'd look a bit of a...
Yeah. But they can't wear a yellow jersey because that is seen as like, you can't, you're kidding me.
Yeah. Well, people wear polka dot, you know, which is like
King of the Mountains. Yeah. What, round your way? What, around Milton Keynes? So there's very hilly areas?
Up north they do it, where there's a lot of cycling up north.
But anyway, I
know all about King of the Mountains. My dad and my brother are huge cyclists.
And do you know why? I know we're going off on one here, but the King of the Mountains shirt in cycling, which is white with red spots, do you know why it's white with red spots?
No, I do not.
Because back over 100 years ago, it was sponsored by a chocolate company and their wrapper was white with red spots. And because they sponsored that award, that is the reason that the jersey is white with red spots. And Tiger Woods has got nothing to do with any of it whatsoever.
No.
But if he got into that, then you never know. It could be another few million.
There you go. Well, you see, you're full of interesting information. I mean, useless.
Completely useless.
But
Paul,
you know,
going off on a tangent, quite.
Yeah, but it's interesting nonetheless. I quite fancy a pair of those gloves of 36 quid for the gloves.
36 quid's not too bad.
But no, you can't. It's one glove though.
Oh, it's one glove.
Well, because if you're playing golf, you only wear one glove.
I'm not Michael Jackson.
I know, but you can't wear a pair of golf gloves. It's just, honestly, we're going to have to go out to the golf course. So I'm going to have to teach you a few things.
No wonder it's only 36 quid.
36 quid.
That's only for one glove.
Yeah.
That's
so you were thinking 36 quid for a pair.
For a pair, of course.
And now 36 quid sounds like a lot of money.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It's too much. Too much.
Sunday
Thanks,
red.
Paul Coit.
I wondered why they were different colours, the pair.
That's it, yeah.
That's why.
They're both thinking why they look a bit above that. That's on that one.
Oh, you live and learn, don't you? There you go.
Better grip.
Paul, thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you. I'll see you tomorrow. Maybe.
Oh, God.
Should things go well? Should I be able to get out of the building without being called into the boss's office?
Yeah, I doubt it, yeah.
Thanks, Paul Coit. Do stay with us. Charlie Rowley and Lucy Beresford will be with us to go through the papers.
The latest GB News travel. Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Conway, the A55 North Wales Expressway is closed westbound from junction 16 at Doiga Bulky to 15A at Penmaenmawr. That's because of investigation. In Flintshire, the A541 remains closed each way along Denby Road in Mould after a fire that broke out on Tuesday afternoon. Now, on the M6 in Warwickshire, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed southbound, where a lorry broke down between junctions 3 and 2 from Coventry to the M69. It's been taking around 20 minutes and delays towards and past there. Train services in London aren't running between Beckenham Junction and London Bridge because of a signalling problem. On the M25 in Kent, there's a lane closed each way again today for repairs near Junction 5 for the M26, with queues from Junction 4 at Orpington, queues 2 on the M26 towards there. And in Devon, the A375 is impassable because of flooding between Sidford and Sidbury. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Welcome back to Breakfast. Now, students have set up a sit-in at some UK universities to protest Israel's war in Gaza.
Yes, but following on from what's happened in the United States, of course, where 300 people were arrested during police crackdowns on university protests there. In the early hours of yesterday, police were called into Columbia University in New York.
Yes, these are the scenes live now at UCLA in California. We can see it's a very large gathering of people, tents, lots of tents, and people sitting out in the grounds of the campus as well. It's a sign, isn't it, really, the strong sentiment. Let's welcome in Charlie Rowley and Lucy Beresford, who are here with us now. Charlie, what do you make of the scenes that we're seeing here in UCLA?
Well, alarming. I mean, how people feel that they can set up camp in this way, which causes a huge amount of disruption, I would have thought, not just to universities, but to the police. This is a policing operation now, where tensions are obviously going to be very, very high on those grounds. As you say, looking like a huge number of people sitting out there. You just hope that the situation, it looks quite calm, even though there are large numbers of people there. You just hope that that situation doesn't escalate in terms of what we've seen previously in the last few days.
That's the worry, isn't it?
These are students. I'm not saying I agree with what they're doing, but they are students. Aren't they meant to be a bit sort of protesty and lefty?
Yes.
And
well, it was not necessarily about their politics, but it's about their brain development, because there are fluctuations in the brain development, which means that they get very passionate about causes, very enthusiastic. The if you like, the executive functioning, the CEO part of your brain, dwindles a little bit during adolescence and late adolescence. And that's why they get very enthusiastic about topics and run around trying to change the world, whereas the rest of us think, oh, well, you're just wasting your time. So it's really
think it through.
It's really, no, and that's why, because they don't have the CEO function that says that's probably not a good idea, you should be studying, you might get a cold if you're in your tent for 20 days. They don't think it through in that regard, but what they're thinking through is maybe the longer term project. More worrying for me is the fact that there are going to be copycat protests in British universities.
Well, we're
now.
seeing it already, aren't we?
We're seeing certain Russell Group universities already having some protests, some campsites being erected. But what we haven't had is the sort of dramatic input of the police. But because of what's happening in the States, we are, if nothing but imitative creatures. So there is a concern that this could escalate in the UK as well, because fundamentally they're talking about the same issue.
Yeah, well, let's hope that it doesn't turn violent in the UK, because so far, as you say, we've seen demonstrations, haven't we, at Sheffield, Bristol, Leeds, Newcastle. But so far, they have been peaceful. Sit-ins and demonstrations, but it hasn't turned to violence.
No, and that's obviously, you know, what nobody wants to see. But I've also got to question, you know, whether people who are part of these protests, because I think Stephen was making a good point that people sort of, you know, jump on the bandwagon half the time. And I would actually challenge some of these students and ask them, do you actually know what it is you're protesting about? Because of the copycat nature of it, do you actually understand the history about the region, the conflict that's currently underway? Why do you take such a particular position, such a strong position, to go and camp out in a university or pitch up there for hours on end? Do you actually know what it is that you want to get out of? You might want a resolution to a situation. We all want that, if it's to deal with the Middle East. But do you know what you're actually protesting for or against, and what impact that's having on your fellow student or the local community, or the situation that you're supposedly purporting or campaigning against?
Well, that's exactly what the Mayor of New York is highlighting, that his concern is that it isn't just students, that it's activists coming from outside who are agitating this and escalating it in a way that the students themselves wouldn't.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. So you've got to have it right, and in a way, students need to be students. It's just when it crosses that line, you know, into something much more
But most
serious.
of the students I know just either stayed in bed or did stand-up comedy shows. They didn't go around waving placards.
I guess,
well, no.
I guess the issue is if you're a Jewish student, you feel unsafe.
Do you feel intimidated by it?
And do you feel
I think there is a
intimidated by it?
difference between
Can you go to
having
class?
a protest, or maybe, you know, one afternoon, and maybe there's a big march in the town where the university is, but setting up a campsite, it has all the hallmarks of sort of Greenham Common, and we know how long that lasted. But it was a way of kind of, yes, making your point, but in a way also doing it in a very obstructive way, that you're not really allowing the other person to have a different point of view.
Yeah. There's everything with this debate. You get it with a lot of things, particularly with the young, and maybe because of that brain development thing you were talking about, is that everything is black or white. And that isn't the reality. It's never the reality.
It has to be, but you could argue that the world never changes if it's only left to the mature adult brain, that actually what you need are people who are going to push the envelope, reinvent the wheel and all those other cliches, but they are trying to do things differently.
Yes, fair point. Right, interesting to talk about that with you two, but we're going to go through all the papers with Charlie and Lucy in just a couple of minutes, so don't go anywhere.
GB News is Britain's election channel. And from tonight,
The people decide.
as the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections, we'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
And we'll pick up at breakfast
with the very best guests and analysis.
And on the weekend, the results won't stop, and neither will we.
We'll explore what it all means for you as we look ahead to the general election.
Continuing coverage live from tonight at midnight on GB News.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Many of the people that you had invited to come and speak were people who've been elected in their own countries. I'm thinking of people like Suella Braverman. I'm thinking of Nigel Farage, who has been a member of the European Parliament, of course, had an enormous impact on British politics. And Viktor Orban, who has been elected and re-elected. Many people may not care for the Prime Minister of Hungary, but he's certainly an elected person.
And in addition, we had about 15 to 16 members of the European Parliament who are also elected, and they really live in Brussels. And you would imagine that Brussels, being the head of the capital of the EU, would allow elected members of its own parliament to have an opportunity to voice their views. So I think what was very interesting about this is that the mayors overplayed their hands, so that because they overplayed their hands, all public opinion became entirely on our side. It was so evident, so transparent, that this was really an attempt to use the police instead of arguments to react to our conference, that it was a real direct threat, and it is still a direct threat to the freedom of assembly and to free speech.
So how do you think it leaves it? Is it more likely or less likely that there'll be future bans?
I think this was a trial run. What I'm really worried about is that if the future of democracy and free speech depends on the ruling of one judge, and you have to remember that 3 other judges ruled against us, then democracy is in big trouble. What worries me absolutely is that a strong body of political opinion amongst established politicians believes that it is okay to cancel conferences and to crush the people's opinions and prevent the freedom of assembly. Democracy actually depends on these foundational values.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threats on.
Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me. My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country. That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
So we're going through the papers with Charlie and Lucy. Let's get all romantic, should we?
Oh, softy.
I am a big softy, but I don't know if I'd want to go on Bumble.
No, well, Bumble isn't really designed... Well, it is designed for men and women, but the original USP of Bumble was that it was the woman that made the first move.
Oh, right.
But what they've decided to do is to drop that completely, because the relationship model that it was setting up was women doing all the work for the relationship, not just in the original approach, but actually subsequently. And there was some very interesting research out from Ashley Madison, which showed that single men are signing up to Ashley Madison, which is this married dating website, because they want to woo the married woman. That actually women are now saying, does it have to be all about me? I want to actually get... does it have to be about me doing all the work? I want to get my needs met. Yeah. I want to be courted. I want to be wooed. I want someone to chase me. There's a beautiful phrase, which I gather sounds a bit better in Italian than in English, but it says, let the man who loves me follow me. And that should be the relationship.
But not in a creepy way, yeah.
But not in a stalker way. In a baby reindeer way.
Bad.
Yes.
But if it's the other way round, don't men end up having to make all the effort? Is that the implication?
What would be wrong with that, Stephen? Actually, maybe that might be a really good thing. That actually the man chases you.
Total hypocrisy.
Chases you, woos you, supports you.
Nice, yeah.
And actually, Charlie was reading about a very different app which has a very similar flavour, which is to educate men to be more successful and better in relationships, like showing up on time, remembering anniversaries and birthdays.
Well, that's the story. You've said it now. I can't add. No. It's you're right. But look, I think the thing about Bumble is it was set up. You're absolutely right, because it was sort of supposed to be, I think, slightly more protectionist of women. So women, will be the ones to decide whether they're being approached by a man, whether they want to go through with it. You can't just have a random sort of, slip into your DMs. I think it's called.
Yes.
And so, but that does then.
My dream.
But it does then put the man on the back foot, because if you think, right, OK, I can only be approached, or the woman would decide on Bumble whether she wants to go on the date with that guy or not. Then you, from the off, you are second to that relationship in terms of the decision making.
Well, maybe that's why Ashley Madison is better, because at least everybody who's on that site knows what they're there for.
Yeah, but
there's no second guessing.
I'd shut that one down.
Right.
Because I think it's immoral that there's a dating app for people who are married and want to have extramarital relationships.
Well, like I said, the highest cohort of people who are signing up at the moment are Generation Z, under the age of 29, and they're not married.
Yes, but it's what it's been designed for, isn't it? And absolutely fundamentally disagree with that.
But there is...
But that's just me. I'm old-fashioned, you see.
You want a fortune.
I believe in monogamy and marriage and all that sort of thing.
I agree. I've never been kissed, Steve.
I can believe it.
No one's ever asked me out.
Charlie, people believe you when you say these things. You know? My mum messaged me last week saying, I'm so sorry for Charlie, he hasn't been kissed. And I was like, Mum, please.
Oh, hello, Mum, if you're watching.
Yes, don't worry about Charlie, he's fine.
But yeah, I'm doing OK.
Yeah, you're doing all right.
But in order to ensure that men do pick up the pace a bit, to make sure that they don't forget things and that they actually make a contribution to relationships, there is an app that they can download called Angry GF for £6.99, and it does help them with little tips to sort of remind of birthdays, anniversaries, but also if you've upset your partner in any way, things you can do to sort of get out of it and make it better.
All right. So it's called Angry Girlfriend, basically.
Effectively, yes. But again, not something that I need or would want, I don't think, because I think you should be able to...
Angry Girlfriend or the app?
I wouldn't want either. But I think you should be able to have a conversation with your partner. To
all about communication. But it's very interesting that Stephen was talking about monogamy, because I think that relationship fluidity is the way that a lot of people are going. We have another story that we might talk about in a moment about a celebrity who's single at the age of, I think,
this is Anita Rani.
Mid-40s, doesn't have kids, doesn't have a husband, and is enjoying the single life. And I think, again, a lot of people are saying maybe monogamy for the duration of your adult life is...
Oh, nonsense.
It's not... Is that sustainable?
Yes,
if you live to 120, you might be with someone for 100 years.
It is sustainable if you are actually in love with each other. I think the problem with that is that a lot of people get married and they're not in love. It's the best around at the time, or they do, now's the time I need to have children. I mean, I know loads of people who've done that.
I know people who've done that. Again, we're imitative creatures, so I know there's a whole cohorts of friendship groups can all start to get engaged at the same time. So, yeah, there are different reasons why people get together. But does that mean they have to stay in unhappy relationships?
If
they've made...
No,
if they've changed...
Split up and then you do what you want. But I'm with Stephen on this, and I have to say, I can't believe that, you can still sort of pretend that you're in some sort of happy relationship and loving relationship if you want to be sleeping with someone else or go off with someone else. If you want to separate and have a happy-go-lucky life, go and do it. But don't fool yourselves or kid yourselves into believing that you are in a happy sort of marriage.
For some people, they don't want to rupture their marriage. They don't want to leave their children. They don't want to maybe even change their lifestyle, which is a questionable point. But having an affair might enable some people to show up as a better spouse because they're less resentful.
Oh, no.
They're getting their needs met elsewhere, so they don't have to feel that they can take it out on their partner.
Oh no, I don't believe in that.
I love our debates.
I don't believe in that. You've just got you've got 1 minute to tell us about cold beer, Charlie.
Well, yes, scientists have obviously been spending a lot of time, and I wish I was part of this research team, drinking beer, because they have discovered that the best pint is served at 5 degrees, which is about temperature that you put in the fridge. I'm sure I'll be having a few on my holiday, which I'll be undertaking very shortly after this.
For research purposes.
One more minute of work. I'll let you know. I'll be tasting the outcome of the local elections, whatever they are.
Yeah, presumably this means lager, though.
Yes.
And no, because it says Brits are often mocked for their room temperature ales. So if it's an ale, you don't want it at 5 degrees, do you?
Well, some ales are chilled, but then of course, the Australians apparently like warm beer. So it's all, it's horses for courses, different strokes for different folks. I'll leave it at that.
Right, Stephen Butler says, I've already got an angry girlfriend. I don't want an app to go with it. Fair point. Here's the weather.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Some places seeing some pleasant warm May sunshine today, but staying fairly cloudy in the south, and in eastern areas a chilly breeze off the North Sea. Had some big thunderstorms through the night across the south. Still a few heavy downpours here and there this morning. Parts of southern England, the Midlands and South Wales in particular. The rain will ease a little bit through the day, but staying fairly dull and damp across the southwest. Some brighter skies for East Anglia, Northern England, Northern Ireland and a good chunk of Scotland. Western Scotland in particular, 21, maybe 22 degrees, but much cooler on these eastern coasts with that breeze coming in from the sea, and cooler with the cloud and the showery rain across the southwestern quarter. That rain will continue well into this evening as well. And then later in the night, we need to look at further pulses of heavy rain, potentially further thunderstorms coming into parts of East Anglia. Further north, it generally stays dry. There'll be some clearer spells, but quite a bit of cloud. That'll keep the temperatures up 9 to 11 Celsius. On to tomorrow, and it's a similar story. We're going to start pretty grey over the Midlands and Wales with some outbreaks of rain, but heavier rain coming into parts of eastern England, so a different feel across northeast England in particular. Again, the potential for 1 or 2 thunderstorms. Brighter day in southwest England. Again, chilly on some of these North Sea coasts with temperatures really struggling under the cloud, but yet again, if you like warm sunshine, western Scotland will be the place to be.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
GB News is Britain's election channel. And from tonight,
the people decide.
As the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections, we'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
And we'll pick up at breakfast
with the very best guests and analysis.
And on the weekend, the results won't stop, and neither will we.
We'll explore what it all means for you as we look ahead to the general election.
Continuing coverage live from tonight at midnight on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Buses replaced trains between Scunthorpe and Doncaster after a landslip. In Conway on the A55 North Wales Expressway, there are westbound queues between junctions 16A and 16. At Doiga-Vulky, after an investigation earlier, all lanes though are back open. In Flintshire, the A541 remains closed each way along Denby Road in Mould after a fire. In Neathport Talbot, the A48 is closed westbound from the Britain Ferry roundabout to junction 42 of the M4 east of Swansea after an accident causing queues. On the M25 in Kent, there's a lane closed each way again today for repairs near junction 5 for the M26 with queues towards there. And there's also a lane closure on the M26 in Kent approaching the M25 for repairs, causing roughly 4 miles of queues on that approach. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
We've blown the budget by giving you the chance to win a totally terrific £20,000 in tax-free cash to make your summer spectacular. You could use that cash to splash out on a holiday, make the garden glam, buy a new car, or just save it for a rainy day. Whatever you'd spend £20,000 on, make sure you don't miss the chance to make it yours. For a chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people.
To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Good morning to you. Oh, excuse me. I don't know what's up with me at the minute.
He's got a frog in his throat. Do you want me to carry on?
I'm going to start. No.
All right.
No, I'm going to manage it. I'm going to soldier on. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock on Thursday, the 2nd of May. I've run out of tea. Today, the Scottish Government breathes a sigh of relief as they survive a vote of no confidence, winning it by 70 votes to 58.
University students in America continue pro-Palestinian protests as some students in UK institutions begin to follow suit.
Princess Charlotte, who's third in line to the throne, celebrates her 9th birthday today.
Now, you might have woken up to thunderstorms as weather warnings are extended by the Met Office across a large part of southern England. That came after the hottest day of the year so far.
After some big thunderstorms last night, still a few showers across the south today, but for many, there'll be some pleasant warm spring sunshine, especially so in western Scotland. Could last into tomorrow as well. Join me later for a full forecast.
Morning to you. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
On that whole dating app thing and all the rest of it, Teresa's been in touch. She says men get a bad press and women should be gentle in their rejection of a man, but firm as well. We should get to know them by talking more. So, and Charles McDonald says, I agree with Stephen on the marriage thing. You should be faithful in a marriage. And Sasha Anderson, I think we should possibly send the men in white coats round, Sasha. Charlie is a lot of women's ideal man. He's funny, bright and smiley. Can he put a shelf up? If so, he's perfect, and that wouldn't make him perfect, Sasha.
I'm going to say he
Not
probably
for you.
wouldn't put up a shelf.
I
don't think he's your type. And Sue Ryder says, I'd kiss Charlie. He's a bit posh and class, bless him. That he is. We love Charlie. We've got a lot of time for Charlie.
Eleanor Fisher says she thinks my finger problem is gout. Gout? I thought you got that by drinking port.
That was like Tudor times. Do people still get gout?
I don't know. I don't think it can be gout. I don't drink.
No, but you eat Pringles. And cheese.
Pringle-related gout? Is that a thing now?
Oh, the crisps are available.
I can feel a court case coming on. I'm going to sue.
Yeah, but maybe cheese causes gout.
Don't eat that much. I'm on
You
a
do like
diet.
your crisps and your cheese, but you wouldn't eat that much.
No. Anyway, let's... Should we... I just want to tell you, just in case you weren't aware, polls opened at 7 o'clock this morning for elections around the country, and we're going to have a special programme tonight.
GB News is Britain's election channel. And from tonight...
The people decide.
As the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections, we'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
And we'll pick up at breakfast
with the very best guests and analysis.
And on the weekend, the results won't stop, and neither will we.
We'll explore what it all means for you as we look ahead to the general election.
Continuing coverage live from tonight at midnight on GB News.
Now, the Scottish Government has survived a confidence vote in the Scottish Parliament.
Yes, Scottish Labour tabled the motion after the collapse of the power-sharing deal between the SNP and the Scottish Greens.
How many times can we say Scottish, do you think? It was defeated by 58 votes to 70, with no abstentions.
Well, joining us now from Grassmarket in Edinburgh is our Scotland reporter, Tony Maguire. And the SNP, they're breathing a sigh of relief this morning, Tony.
Good morning. Yes, certainly. I mean, I think, to be fair, there was probably very little chance of that vote of no confidence achieving what Anas Sarwar, Scottish Labour leader, had set out to do. Certainly, this all really stems back to last Thursday when Humza Yousaf, the outgoing First Minister, essentially torpedoed the Butte House agreement just at the last minute. And a very strange sequence of events that's led to some very unhappy Scottish Green Party members because they lost their cabinet positions, and the Scottish Government, as we have known it for the previous 970 odd days, was no more. So the SNP are left with that minority government. Yesterday, Anas Sarwar from Labour, he gave all he could to convince the Parliament, but as we're about to hear, Humza Yousaf, well, he was not ready to give up just yet.
We will never do anything other than stand by our values, stand by Scotland's values. The true vote of no confidence that the people of Scotland really need and they deserve is a vote of no confidence in this failing, miserable union that is holding Scotland back and inflicting damage on the people and the economy of this country. The cosy Westminster Alliance represented here today are terrified of such a vote. Why? Because they know what the result will be. So I urge the Chamber Presiding Officer to reject this motion and let's start focusing on the real priorities of the people of Scotland.
So that was definitely the vote of no confidence that wasn't, and certainly today it seems to be that the distractions are now over, because this morning we are finally on the precipice of getting our first candidate to replace Humza Yousaf, and that will be John Swinney. He's called an event here at Grassmarket in Edinburgh, you know, one of the oldest parts in Edinburgh, this actually, reliable buildings here, and that is definitely the message that he's going to be sending to supporters today. Pretty much all of Humza Yousaf's cabinet lining up behind him to be the next leader. Meanwhile, we're expecting to hear something or some kind of signal from Kate Forbes. There has been quite a lot of talks that they've perhaps done a backroom deal. You know, John Swinney as First Minister, Kate Forbes by his side in a high cabinet position, perhaps a return to Finance Secretary, and together they would certainly present some kind of problem for Anas Sarwar. The Scottish opposition parties, well, they would have to, you know, get back to the drawing board and reconfigure how they would go about attacking the SNP at the next election. Nevertheless, there will be no return to a Butte House agreement, although John Swinney, Kate Forbes or whoever will replace Humza Yousaf, they'll have to rely on those Green votes in order to get things like budgets, legislation, etc. pushed through. So this morning it seems very much like we're about to turn the chapter here, but we still don't know whether this is going to be a contest or a coronation. A lot of people think that John Swinney will just take this into the next Scottish election in 2026.
OK, Tony, for now, thanks very much indeed. Now, special birthday today.
It is.
Very special birthday for Princess Charlotte, 9 today.
Yes, the Prince and Princess of Wales are expected to release a new image of their daughter on social media to mark the occasion, just like they did for Prince Louis's birthday last week.
Do you remember being 9? I got vague recollections.
Oh, yeah, vague recollection. Yeah.
But anyway, I'm sort of nice.
It's a good age. I feel like you're growing up.
Yeah, I suppose you do. But anyway, Charlotte's big day comes, of course, as the family are navigating the health around Princess Catherine. And, of course, she is away from official duties for the time being.
Well, earlier we spoke to former royal correspondent for the Sun newspaper, Charles Ray.
Yes, the family will be celebrating this afternoon when she comes home from school with her brothers. Great day for her. 9 years old. Oh God, to be 9 again. Wouldn't it be fantastic? And I think Charlotte's going to have a nice day. As you quite rightly said, this comes as her mother is fighting cancer, but this is going to be, a great moment, bring some smiles to the family again.
I have to say, I know it's like really, really obvious, Charles, but until we said it this morning, I sort of hadn't realised she was third in line to the throne. I mean, it's remarkable. It's remarkable. We've got all these royals who've worked their whole lives and are really stepping up to the plate, but actually they're way behind the Wales's children when it comes to, who would head to the palace if necessary.
Well, it's a few years ago that they changed the rules where, that women could then actually take the proper place in the line of succession. And, of course, Charlotte was one of the first beneficiaries of that. And she, of course, is third in line to the throne. She's not only third in line to the throne, but she's quite a feisty little girl, and she at times does put her brothers, including George, who one day will be king, in their place. You know, she tells them off when she needs to. She has been dubbed at nursery school, when she was at nursery school, as the warrior princess. You know, she's all sweet and nice and everything else, but she can't tell them off if she wants to.
You can see, I think, the family genes coming through. I mean, I think she looks the picture of the late Queen Elizabeth. I think she's really got that look about her. And she does have that kind of no-nonsense that you just alluded to there, where she'd tell her brothers off on the balcony. Very like Princess Anne. She just like gets on with things, doesn't she? She likes to get on with things, and she's very natural in her role.
She is, and I think she has got a few mannerisms of Princess Anne. You're quite right. She's definitely no nonsense. I mean, who can forget when she's sort of been ticking off George for apparently not paying attention at various events, and Louis too. But yeah, no, she's very natural. She's a lovely girl, and I'm looking forward to seeing the picture later on today that the Wales is released.
Yeah, it will be nice. It's interesting, of course, that they are releasing, as we saw with Louis, they're releasing them on social media rather than providing them to the news agencies, which is what traditionally they've done.
Yeah, the thing is, Stephen, that there was such a furore over that Mother's Day picture, and I think it was a mountain out of a molehill, and I think it was disgraceful, the attacks that were made on Catherine. William had taken the picture, and, you know, okay, so Louis' sleeve was altered. Who cares? The actual essence of the point was that it was a lovely Mother's Day picture. And I don't blame them at all to release these pictures on social media. It'll just stop the idiots having to dissect, you know, is one thread out of place or whatever else. You know, best of luck to them. I really do think it was appalling, the attacks on her.
Oh, well, nice. Happy birthday to Princess Charlotte.
Yes, lots of people enjoying a special birthday today, and if you were one of them, we'd love to hear from you. gbnews.com/yoursay.
Now, coming up at 9:30 is Britain's Newsroom, and Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner are here to tell us all about it. Morning.
Morning. How are you?
We're good. How are you?
All right.
We're OK. Well, we're going to our universities because there's worrying signs that the terrible things we've seen in America with pro-Palestinian protesters objecting to Jewish students going to university. Police have been involved.
Is that the rhetoric involved? Because it's one thing if people are protesting. I understand people wanting to protest.
Yeah.
It's when it then becomes anti-Semitic.
They're blocking Jewish students from going to university. So what's happening now in Britain, a number of universities, Leeds, Bristol, Newcastle, Manchester, sit-ins are starting, pro-Palestinian, demanding that universities end their links with Israeli universities, demanding that they disengage with the arms trade. What have universities got to do with the arms trade? So is this all going to kick off here? That's the worry.
This topic is very much front and centre, actually, even at schools, I would say, at the moment. My 13-year-old, just 13, came home the other day and she said, Mum, we just explained the Palestine thing to me. And I thought, oh, how long have we got? This goes back a few decades. And then she said, but Palestine are the side we have to be on, aren't they?
Oh.
Yeah, and then I said, why do you think that? She said, well, because people at school are wearing Free Palestine badges.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So that's just a state, a high school. So it's interesting because there's so much. I don't think a lot of these. I would argue that perhaps some of the students, maybe in this country as well, don't really understand the depth of history with this topic.
No, I mean, you could argue it goes back thousands of years.
Of course.
I mean, that's the point. So, I mean, I hope it does. If they're just sit-ins, that's OK, isn't it, to a point? But if they try and block young Jewish men and women going to university, that's appalling, anti-Semitic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, of course, we will be looking for that photograph of your favourite princess.
Oh,
Is it coming today?
Oh, do we know what time they're going to pop that out?
Well, we don't know. Well, I mean, last time...
They kept us waiting with Louis, didn't they?
They did. And it was a lovely photograph of Louis, wasn't it? Yeah.
And there's a rather interesting BBC story that's going on at the moment, which is that there are 4 newsreaders who have taken BBC to a tribunal for sexist behaviour against them, particularly the older women.
It's funny that you don't see older women on the BBC, but you can see older men.
You see older women here.
Yeah, but one of them's 48.
Well,
what is that too old for you?
No, that's not. positively young.
Well, I would agree with that.
But I would say you can't argue ageism at 48. Maybe they just... Because, I mean, they had a big reshuffle. They basically said everyone's got to reapply for their jobs, and they didn't get their jobs back.
Well, it's quite a lot. I think the majority of those who didn't get their jobs back were women who were over 40.
Yeah, the women aged 48 to 54, familiar faces from the BBC news channels, and they are complaining that they were unfairly dismissed.
I don't know what to...
Well, we'll have a look. We'll look into the detail.
The tribunal will resolve it. And, of course, there's more Rwanda because the unions are trying to stop that. Of course they are.
Of course they are. Yes, that's the civil servants,
Yeah,
isn't
of course it is, yeah. Saying that civil servants cannot follow the political will of their ministers. Disgraceful and outrageous.
Yeah. It's the way we're going. Thank you both very much indeed.
Andrew, Bev, thank you very much indeed. Now, summer is just around the corner, isn't it? And we want to make it...
sizzle for you. We really do, with £20,000 in cash up for grabs in our latest Great British giveaway.
Yes, it's our biggest cash prize to date, and it could all be yours. So here's how you could be a winner.
We've blown the budget by giving you the chance to win a totally terrific £20,000 in tax-free cash to make your summer spectacular. You could use that cash to splash out on a holiday, make the garden glam, buy a new car, or just save it for a rainy day. Whatever you'd spend £20,000 on, make sure you don't miss the chance to make it yours. For a chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck indeed. Now, do stay with us. Still to come, Netflix's new series, Baby Reindeer, has become one of the most talked about TV sensations of the year. It's all about a struggling comedian in London who is targeted by an obsessed female stalker. We're going to be talking to showbiz reporter Ellie Phillips all about that next.
GB News is Britain's election channel. And from tonight,
the people decide.
As the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections, we'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
And we'll pick up at breakfast
with the very best guests and analysis.
And on the weekend, the results won't stop, and neither will we.
We'll explore what it all means for you as we look ahead to the general election.
Continuing coverage live from tonight at midnight on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The biggest of occasions for England's smallest county. In Rutland, there isn't a single statue. Now there shall be, of one of the most important people in British history, the late Queen. Lord Lieutenant Sarah Furness represents the monarch in the county.
Her Majesty provided us all with a sense of stability and continuity. As head of state, she gave us national identity.
Raising £140,000 in donations, mostly from individuals, the statue in the town of Oakham is the first of its kind to be unveiled since the death of Queen Elizabeth. Howell Prattley is the sculptor.
I am a big fan of public sculpture, being integral to, a friendly, caring community.
Young and old are lining the streets to catch a glimpse of the 7-foot statue, including 89-year-old Joyce Lucas in the front row.
We met her on several occasions in Oakham, and we've got some lovely photographs and lovely, lovely memories. She is the Queen. She was great. She was brilliant, and we miss her.
The Queen's death broke the nation's heart. Her memorial is filling Rutlands with pride. Her image, taken from early middle age, set in bronze.
Well, it's a real fitting tribute to the late Queen.
I think it captures our late Majesty's humanity, but also she looks so regal.
Absolutely beautiful.
Queen Elizabeth was Britain's longest reigning monarch. Her reign was great, unlikely to be matched by future king or queen. A legacy of unwavering service recorded in a place of permanent remembrance. Will Hollis, GB News in Oakham.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Now, there's a new Netflix show which is causing a bit of a stir. It's called Baby Reindeer, and it's become the most talked about TV sensation of the year, apparently, where a struggling comedian is targeted by an obsessed stalker.
Yeah, you're not too much of a fan, are you?
Well, we watched the first couple of minutes and then I was told, no.
You switched it off?
This isn't for us, until we turned it off.
I binged the whole thing. I've never seen anything quite like it. So unpack it all with us now is showbiz reporter Ellie Phillips. Good to see you this morning, Ellie. So for those who haven't seen Baby Reindeer, what's it all about?
Okay, so Baby Reindeer tells the true life story of a guy called Richard Gadd. He plays himself in the series, the Netflix series, but he uses a different name. He calls himself Donnie Dunn. But it's his story, it's from his experiences, and obviously within that it also got artistic license. So most of it, as he says, most of it's true, but there are certain elements where they've been embellished, which is usual for an entertainment programme. It follows his journey as someone who has been sexually abused and then becomes stalked by someone else. So there's, as well as him, Richard Gadd, who plays himself, there are two other main characters in it. Martha, his stalker, who's played by an incredible actress called Jennifer Gunning, and his rapist is a guy called Darian in the show, who's played by an actor called Tom Goodman-High. Now, it's gone down incredibly well for Netflix because they didn't put much marketing behind this, and actually it came out on April 11th, and already in less than a month it's had over 22 million views, and that's purely because of word of mouth, because we've never seen anything like this. Like you said, Ellie, it's very different from anything we've seen. It's a very kind of introspective version of what's happened to him. He doesn't come out looking, you know, like a complete victim, if I'm honest. He is, but it's not what we typically would kind of associate with. He plays himself and shows himself as someone who made mistakes along the way in terms of how he reacted to situations. And now what's happened is, sadly, internet sleuths have got on this hunt to try and find out who the real life people are, whether that's his stalker or his rapist. And unfortunately, a West End theatre director called Sean Foley has revealed that police have been investigating defamatory, abusive and threatening social media posts against him, with people accusing him of being Richard Gadd's rapist. Now, Richard himself, Richard Gadd, the writer and the guy who stars in this, has made it clear that he changed names, specific details for the story in order to protect the identities of those involved. But it hasn't taken long for people to actually find the real Martha, so his stalker. And what's happened now of all this, the weeks of this rolling on and kind of the sleuths doing their work, is that she's come out and done an anonymous interview with Mail Online saying essentially she's being bullied online for fame and fortune, and that she potentially plans to sue Netflix and Richard Gadd for defamation.
Oh, so it could all get very, very messy.
It could do.
Absolutely. But I've got to say, I don't think that Netflix would have gone ahead with something like this without being very sure. We know they have very good lawyers. They'll have looked into this. And what's come out in kind of terms of the interviews that Richard Gadd and others have done is that, according to him, the majority of what we see on screen is true. The only bit that isn't true is that she didn't go to jail she wasn't put behind bars for this because he says he decided it wasn't right for someone with this mental illness to be put behind bars. But there are police reports and stuff to verify what happened to him.
OK. Ellie Phillips, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Up next, Britain's Newsroom. We'll see you tomorrow.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Some places seeing some pleasant warm May sunshine today, but staying fairly cloudy in the south and in eastern areas, a chilly breeze off the North Sea. Had some big thunderstorms through the night across the south. Still a few heavy downpours here and there this morning. Parts of southern England, the Midlands and South Wales in particular. The rain will ease a little bit through the day, but staying fairly dull and damp across the southwest. Some brighter skies for East Anglia, Northern England, Northern Ireland and a good chunk of Scotland. Western Scotland in particular, 21, maybe 22 degrees, but much cooler on these eastern coasts with that breeze coming in from the sea and cooler with the cloud and the showery rain across the southwestern quarter. That rain will continue well into this evening as well. And then later in the night, we need to look at further pulses of heavy rain, potentially further thunderstorms coming into parts of East Anglia. Further north, it generally stays dry. There'll be some clearer spells, but quite a bit of cloud. That'll keep the temperatures up 9 to 11 Celsius. On to tomorrow, and it's a similar story. We're going to start pretty grey over the Midlands and Wales with some outbreaks of rain, but heavier rain coming into parts of eastern England, so a different feel across northeast England in particular. Again, the potential for 1 or 2 thunderstorms. Brighter day in southwest England. Again, chilly on some of these North Sea coasts with temperatures really struggling under the cloud. But yet again, if you like warm sunshine, western Scotland will be the place to be.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Very good morning. So, we're going to be talking about the Palestinian protesters. It's all kicking off in America with the students. Do they really know what they're protesting about?
And the worry for us here, that beginning to see similar protests starting at our universities, Leeds, Manchester, Bristol, sit-ins now, objecting to the university's links with universities in Israel. Are they going to do like they do in America, try and stop Jewish students from going to study?
That's
that would be outrageous.
Also, civil servants trying to block the Rwanda plans. How angry are you about that?
Because who governs Britain, the civil service or the government?
Don't go anywhere.
GB News is Britain's election channel. And from tonight,
the people decide.
As the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections, we'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
and we'll pick up at breakfast.
With the very best guests and analysis.
And on the weekend, the results won't stop the